My goodness, the feel of these strikes. It's incredible. Lu Shiyu stamped her feet, overcome with excitement. She had rarely engaged in combat before. The reasons were her fear of pain and the crushing frustration of defeat. But now, this set of gear filled her with unprecedented confidence. Fighting really is thrilling. I've got to properly reward Xiao Lu once I get back, she thought happily to herself. As for the rules of the internal assessment, Lu Shiyu had memorized them thoroughly before signing up. The internal assessment hosted by Linhai Municipal Awakener Administration adopted a tournament point system. 1 point was awarded for each victory. 1 point was awarded for each victory, with bonus points for consecutive wins. The participant claiming first place in the final rankings would automatically be promoted to combat staff, granted Grade A authority and corresponding benefits. However, they were also required to enter the endless battlefield and serve on the front lines for a minimum of 1 year. This rule discouraged most civilian staff. The endless battlefield formed the front line between Great Xia and the Abyss Rifts. Thousands of professional awakeners lost their lives there every year. For those accustomed to office work, the mere phrase frontline was enough to make them tuck their application forms back into their drawers. To Lu Shiyu, however, Grade A authority stood 3 full tiers above her current Grade D clerk clearance. She could never earn such privileges simply putting in 20 years of office seniority. The referee on the arena raised his hand. Next match, Lu Shiyu versus Wang Yin. Her opponent was a shield warrior clad in heavy plate armor, level 31, armed with a tower shield and a flail. As soon as he stepped onto the arena, he slammed his tower shield against the ground. Defensive runes etched across its surface ignited with pale golden radiance. He had clearly watched her previous fight. As long as he kept his head protected, what could she possibly do to him? Nice strategy. Lu Shiyu strode forward in high heels. Wang Yin fixed his gaze firmly on the golden spiked club in her grasp. Every muscle tensed. The runes on his tower shield blazed ever brighter. Lu Shiyu feinted a swing with the club. Wang Yin reflexively hoisted the tower shield upward to guard his head. Yet the club never descended. Lu Shiyu stepped onto the edge of the tower shield, using the momentum to launch herself skyward. The movement speed bonus from her sneaky escape boots carried her through a graceful aerial arc. She sailed over the shield and landed directly behind Wang Yin. The golden spiked club crashed against the back of his skull. 201482, stun triggered. Wang Yin collapsed to the arena floor along with his shield, sending low vibrations rippling through the platform. The referee lifted his hand once more. Winner, Lu Shiyu. Murmurs erupted from the spectator stands. Is she really just civilian staff? What rank of equipment is that club? I checked the equipment codex just now. There's no record of it anywhere. It doesn't exist in the database. A hidden piece of equipment? Or perhaps a custom-made divine artifact? Li Guanhua stared wide-eyed from the examiner's platform. He had assumed Lu Shiyu only signed up on a whim, merely going through the motions. He never imagined she would compete in earnest. If she kept winning like this, could she actually take first place? No civilian clerk had ever transitioned into combat personnel and achieved such a feat before. Another challenger stepped up next, only to be felled by a single blow from Lu Shiyu's club. 11 matches followed in succession. In every fight, Lu Shiyu boasted peak speed, damage resistance, and offensive power. She was an all-round warrior with no obvious weaknesses. How could anyone stand a chance against her? Every competitor watching was consumed by a sense of helpless despair. She was far too overpowered. Lu Shiyu fought a total of 11 matches. 11 straight victories. 8 opponents fell with 1 strike, 2 required 2 hits. And the longest battle lasted no more than 30 seconds. The referee finally grasped her wrist and announced her triumph. Final rankings for this internal assessment. First place, Lu Shiyu, total 15 points. Every spectator rose to their feet, staring in disbelief. A civilian clerk had claimed first place in the internal assessment. This was unprecedented. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Lu Shiyu bowed in multiple directions, wearing a brilliant smile. She had no idea where Xia Lu had obtained such a divine artifact, but it worked wonderfully. Li Guanhua stood up from the examiner's bench and walked onto the arena. He handed her an official Grade A authority appointment letter stamped with a red seal. He looked down at the woman who had worked in his department as an office clerk for 5 years. His lips parted, and in the end, he only said, "Comrade Lu Shiyu, from now on, you hold the same rank as me. No, your combat rating is even higher than mine." He flipped over the roster to show her a line of notes he had just written. Recommended combat rating, A+. Equipment origin pending investigation, temporarily undisclosed. He crossed out the final 3 words and revised it to report at an appropriate time. Thank you, Section Chief. Lu Shiyu accepted the appointment letter with a sweet smile. I look forward to your continued guidance. It will be me relying on you from now on. Li Guanhua removed his reading glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. His tone tinged with emotion. 5 years working in civilian roles without attracting any notice. Yet the moment you step onto the arena, you defeat every top fighter under my command. Go complete your paperwork. Head to the Equipment Division to collect your new credentials. Then report to the Intelligence Division. The Intelligence Division? Grade A clearance allows you access to intelligence archives. Didn't you know? Li Guanhua turned to leave without glancing back, adding one final remark. I have a fair idea what you're planning. You have been granted authority, but do not misuse it. Lu Shiyu remained where she stood, brushing her fingertips lightly across the cover of the appointment letter. She stared at the bright red official seal, and the corners of her mouth slowly lifted. No longer a clerk ordered about by others. She had finally risen to her feet. She unfolded the attached list of benefits and allowances. Her eyes scanned line after line, growing brighter by the second. Monthly salary, 100,000. 8 insurances and 3 pension funds. Housing subsidy of 8,000 monthly. Annual children's education subsidy of 50,000. Special high-risk post allowance of 20,000 each month. All expenses covered during frontline deployment on the endless battlefield. Plus 1 free equipment upgrade service every year. Xiaolu, can you see this? Better days are ahead for us. She carefully stored away the appointment letter, walked down the corridor, swiped her temporary access card, and pushed open the doors to the Intelligence Division. Only one young duty officer was present inside, dozing over his computer. He jolted in shock when she entered, hastily closing a game of Spider Solitaire on his screen. Lu Shiyu? How did you get in here? Hee. You'd better call me your superior from now on. Lu Shiyu twirled her Grade A authority card between her fingers, waving it in front of his eyes. What? You got promoted? The young man stared in shock. It was notoriously difficult for civilian staff to transfer to combat postings. Promotion isn't handed out for free. Lu Shiyu tapped him lightly on the forehead. I earned this position through my own strength. She sat down at the intelligence retrieval terminal. Pull up the anonymous reporting channel for the Bloodhand Gang, the gang led by Zhao Shueshou. The duty officer hesitated, about to voice a question. But the system popped up a confirmation prompt verifying her Grade A authority, so he swallowed his words. He quietly operated the terminal and sent an encrypted communication channel to her personal device. This channel only accepts text messages. It carries military-grade encryption, so the source cannot be traced. The Bloodhand Gang will treat any message as an intelligence lead, though there is no guarantee they will believe its contents. That is sufficient. Lu Shiyu opened the message input box for the encrypted channel. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second, before she began typing. A divine artifact will appear at the abandoned northern suburbs warehouse in 1 hour, the Golden Spiked Club. It possesses a 100 chance to trigger stun on headshots and ignores all boss resistance. Information is reliable, judge for yourselves. She reread the message from start to finish once she finished typing, then pressed send. A notification flashed across the screen, message sent. This channel leaves no traceable records. The dialogue window automatically closed afterward. She leaned back in the chair and let out a long sigh of relief. Set wolves against tigers. Now we wait to see how this unfolds. On the rusted iron rooftop of the abandoned northern suburbs warehouse, Xia Lu squatted low. The visor of his deep-sea helmet shimmered with faint sapphire light. A mimicry field wrapped around him, blending his form into the night. He had an unobstructed view of the overgrown wasteland stretching before the warehouse. At the center of the clearing, 5 streams of inky blue water surged upward from the ground, weaving together to form a spherical deep-sea cage 3 meters in radius, filled with dim seawater. Suspended dead in the middle of the cage was a dark golden spiked club. It should be nearly time. You ought to have finished her part of the plan. He checked the time and gazed toward the distant highway. 2 beams of headlights rounded the bend at the road's end. 1 luxury black sedan followed another. He counted at least a dozen vehicles in the convoy. The fleet came to a halt on the dirt road leading to the warehouse. Members of the Black Tiger Guild climbed out one after another. Hu Biao marched at the front, flanked by more than a dozen core members. Everyone wore full combat gear with weapons drawn, poised for battle. The rear black extended sedan was the last vehicle to open its doors. Sun Hao stepped out first, followed by an elderly hand gripping the car frame, adorned with 3 differently colored enhancement rings. Sun Dishing, leader of the Black Tiger Guild, slowly emerged from the vehicle. He was 67 years old with graying hair, yet his frame remained imposing for his age. He wore a crimson Grade S flame breastplate, embedded with a fist-sized fire crystal that glowed scorching red amid the darkness. In his younger days, he was a renowned flame berserker in Linhai City. At the peak of his second-class advancement, he had solo cleared the level 50 flame demon lair, though age had lowered his level from his prime level 68 down to level 63. The overwhelming aura of authority he carried remained undiminished. He stood before the convoy and swept his gaze across the clearing, his brows furrowing slightly. "This is the location?" His voice was deep and hoarse. "Yes, President." Hu Biao hurried forward and pointed toward the deep-sea cage. "Look at that water sphere. The club inside is the divine artifact I told you about." Sun Dushing narrowed his eyes and stared at the cage for a long while. Instead of moving closer immediately, he turned toward Hu Biao and spoke slowly. "Are you certain this artifact is genuine? A complete stranger offers us a divine artifact out of nowhere. Nothing in this world comes without a price. Do you not understand that truth?" Hu Biao's Adam's apple bobbed, and he lowered his head. "You are right to warn us, Old Sunday. But a guaranteed 100 stun on headshots that ignores boss resistance. We ought to verify it, regardless of whether the claim holds true. 100% headshot stun, and it ignores boss resistance?" Sun Dushing's gaze sharpened. "If this is real, the Black Tiger Guild will claim it at all costs. President, we should not delay. This way." Hu Biao gestured forward. Sun Hao stood nearby, his eyes locked greedily onto the spiked club floating inside the deep-sea cage. Excitement leaked clearly across his face. "Grandfather, can I be the one to wield it first? Guaranteed headshot stun will drastically boost my efficiency, both for future assessments and monster hunting." "Of course you may." Sun Dushing looked fondly at his grandson. "As a great S-profession practitioner, you deserve whatever you desire. I have also arranged matters regarding that woman you mentioned previously. In Linhai City, the Black Tiger Guild holds sway." Joy lit up Sun Hao's face. He thought of Lu Shiyu's striking features, growing eager to meet her. Sun Dushing patted his grandson's head affectionately, then gripped his cane and stepped forward. "Let us go take a look. Stay vigilant, and do not let your guard down. I have lived 67 years and never heard of a divine artifact given away freely." Members of the Black Tiger Guild spread out in a fan formation, escorting Sun Dushing toward the clearing before the warehouse. The closer they drew, the clearer the deep-sea cage became, with the golden spiked club suspended at its center. Sun Dushing halted 3 meters away from the water barrier and raised a hand to signal everyone to stop. Now all of them could see the status panel belonging to the golden spiked club, a top-tier divine artifact. 100% stun on headshots, ignoring bosses and defensive skills alike. Sounds of sharp inhales rippled through the crowd. Even though its base level was only level 1, its attributes surpassed many level 50 items. The game-changing headshot stun ability spoke for itself. Greed shone plainly on countless faces. Impossible to conceal. The artifact is genuine. Even Sun Dushing lost his composure, his voice trembling. The strategic value of this divine artifact was incalculable. Whoever possessed it would allow the Black Tiger Guild to overpower any boss they faced. With this power, they would rise to dominance not just in Linhai City, but across the whole of Great Xia. He could restrain himself no longer and issued the order to retrieve the club. But first, they needed to find a way to breach the deep-sea cage. One subordinate stretched his hand toward the barrier. The crushing water pressure snapped his arm instantly. A shrill scream echoed across the open ground. As Sun Dushing frowned, sharp brakes screeched from the road behind them. Dozens of dazzling headlights shone from the opposite end of the highway. A mocking voice drifted out from behind the lights. "Well now, isn't that President's son? Out and about late at night with such a large retinue. Planning to sneak off with the divine artifact before we catch wind of it." Car doors opened, and members of the Blood Hand Gang filed out. Leading them was Zhao Qian, vice leader of the Blood Hand Gang. A level 55 shadow swordsman clad in dark crimson light armor with a thin rapier hanging at his waist. He commanded at least 30 followers, nearly twice the size of the Black Tiger Guild's party. He stopped before the warehouse and glanced at the golden spiked club trapped within the deep-sea cage. Shock washed over him. It really existed. A top-tier divine artifact? 100% headshot stun, ignoring boss resistance. My God, if we claim this, the Blood Hand Gang will rise to unprecedented heights. His eyes glinted, heavy with ruthlessness and avarice. "Young man, remain calm. We can negotiate." Sun Dushing frowned and spoke coldly. "Save your negotiations. Attack." There was only one artifact to claim. The two factions locked eyes, instantly consumed by hostility. "Kill them." Without further hesitation, the Blood Hand Gang struck first. Zhao Qian's eyes narrowed. His body transformed into a wisp of shadow that darted low across the ground. Shadow Step, the signature mobility skill of a level 55 shadow swordsman. He was nearly invisible amid the night, leaving only a thin black fissure tracing across the soil behind him. A Black Tiger Guild warrior beside Sun Dushing raised his shield, yet the shadow fissure spread beneath his feet. Zhao Qian burst forth from the darkness. His thin rapier stabbed forward from an impossibly tricky angle, piercing the warrior's knee. Blade sliding in, blood pouring out. The level 37 warrior let out a cry and crumpled to the ground, clutching his knee in agony. Over 2/3 of his health vanished in an instant. Zhao Qian planted his foot on the warrior's shoulder and pulled the rapier free. He delivered a follow-up stab to the base of the warrior's neck. The warrior collapsed motionless, his health depleted entirely. Insolent. Sun Dushing's pupils constricted, rage surging through him. He never expected the Bloodhand gang to strike to kill without hesitation. The 3 enhancement rings on his right hand ignited with blazing scarlet light simultaneously, sharply boosting all 4 core attributes. He took a thunderous step forward, shattering the concrete pavement beneath his feet. Engulfed in flames, he charged straight toward Zhao Qian. Zhao Qian had barely withdrawn his rapier when Sun Dushing slammed his shoulder into the man's chest. Zhao Qian flew backward like a cannonball, crashing straight through the warehouse's iron sheet wall. Slay them all. Sun Dushing's eyes blazed with killing intent. Flame wrapped around his arm as he advanced, pulverizing several Bloodhand gang members into clouds of blood mist. With a single strike, his strength was overwhelming. The core members of the Black Tiger Guild joined the fight at once. Hu Biao hefted his broad battle axe and charged into the Bloodhand gang ranks, felling a swordsman who failed to raise his shield in time. The Bloodhand gang fighters retaliated, closing in from both sides. Shadow steps, piercing thrusts, throwing daggers. The glow of countless skills intertwined across the night sky. The 2 forces collided violently, every combatant blinded by fury. Sun Dushing stood out above everyone else, cutting through foes as if wandering empty land. He fought his way steadily toward the golden-spiked club. He understood the core objective clearly. As long as he secured the divine artifact, any losses sustained would be worthwhile. Sun Hao huddled behind an overturned sedan, head tucked between his knees, trembling violently. This was genuine warfare, nothing like simulated dungeons. The sounds of flesh tearing, human screams, and the metallic tang of blood hanging thick in the air made his stomach churn. He vomited the steak he had eaten for lunch beside the vehicle's wheels. Xia Lu slowly rose to his feet atop the warehouse roof, his gaze fixed firmly on the elderly Sun Dushing. The old man was far too powerful and threatened the balance of the conflict. He needed to be dealt with first. Sun Dushing swatted away an assassin from the Bloodhand gang blocking his path. Bathed in fire, he reached the front of the deep-sea cage. He gasped for breath, his gray hair standing on end amid the flames. Yet sharp light burned in his aged eyes. The golden-spiked club hovered less than 2 meters directly before him. Its dark golden surface glinted alluringly through the dim blue seawater. Peerless divine artifact. Greed flickered within his aged eyes. This divine artifact belongs to this old man. But the deep-sea cage posed a great threat. One of his subordinates had once reached a hand inside, only to lose it instantly. As he pondered a way to break the confinement, the currents within the cage suddenly dispersed all at once. The deep-sea cage unraveled of its own accord. The golden-spiked staff hovered unobstructed right before him. Sun Dushing froze for a split second, then wild elation surged through him. He was 67 years old. He had seen countless pieces of equipment, yet never had he witnessed gear offering itself to a wielder. Could this supreme artifact sense his battle spirit? Had it acknowledged him, Linhai City's strongest flame berserker? Trembling, he stretched out his open palm, reaching for the golden-spiked staff. Yet another hand closed around the shaft just before his own. Sun Dushing's smile froze on his face. He whipped his head around, meeting a mask shimmering with streams of blue data. When had this person arrived? How had he moved without making the slightest sound? "It's you," Sun Dushing said, his voice tight. "A mere divine artifact, and you all reveal your ugly sides. Greed, cruelty. You've shown me humanity's basest instincts." Xia Lu gripped the golden-spiked staff, looking down at him from above. His rebuke spared no mercy. Right afterward, the ruby ring glowed brightly. The golden-spiked staff vanished into the storage space. If this artifact fell into your hands, what catastrophe would it bring to Linhai City, to Daxia? You. Sun Dushing clenched his walking stick tightly, his face flushing with rage. He had mobilized every elite of his guild for this artifact. He had traveled all the way from the east side of the city to the north. He had traveled in the dead of night. He had fought head-on against the Bloody Hand Gang, losing several core members in the conflict. Now this stranger intended to take the artifact away with a single dismissive remark? He drew in a deep breath. The flame crystal embedded in his flame breastplate burst forth dazzling scarlet radiance. Leave it behind. Before he could lift his fist, the ink-blue figure before his eyes vanished. What? How can his speed be this extraordinary? The next instant, he felt an icy touch against the back of his right heel. It felt as if an extremely thin, razor-sharp ice blade had brushed against him. A numbing sensation spread instantly. Ah! Sun Dishing let out a scream and crashed heavily to his knees. Glancing down, he saw a cut across his Achilles tendon. The tendon had been severed, leaving his right leg completely useless. Terrifying damage values floated above his head. 2784 3960 3279 68 423. Sun Dishing was filled with horror. The blade carried poison. Xiaolu stared down at him, twirling the blue sea dagger nimbly between his fingers. Now things are fair. Still craving the artifact? Dream on. His form gradually merged into the night. The mimicry field reactivated, and his shimmering silhouette disappeared into the darkness. The chaotic battle raged onward. Everyone had long been consumed by bloodlust. None noticed that the golden spiked staff was already gone. Members of the Black Tiger Guild, overlords of Linhai City, fell one after another. Sun Dishing tried to shout, ordering his men to halt the slaughter. But his tongue had already gone numb. He could not utter a single word. Top-floor conference room, professional practitioners' tower of Linhai City. The mayor, department heads, and other high-ranking officials had all gathered. Lu Xiyu sat toward the rear of the conference table. A combat unit identification badge hung on her chest. The steel stamp marked a rank glinted brightly. Her direct superior was now Zhao Hongyuan, Minister of Professional Practitioners. The balding yet sharp-eyed elder sat beside the mayor, listening to reports from every department. Let us discuss the current situation in Linhai City. Mayor Lin Zhenghong flipped through documents, his brows furrowed. The Black Tiger Guild has grown increasingly reckless. Lu Xiyu pricked up her ears. Not long ago, they began charging so-called service fees at low-level dungeon entrances, stirring up widespread resentment among ordinary practitioners. Frequent feuds and group fights are commonplace. Rumor also says they operate loan sharking rings and employ violent debt collection tactics. The head of the intelligence department flipped through archives, sounding indignant. Recently, they reserved the sunken ruins on the East Coast exclusively, driving away all independent practitioners. Multiple complaints have reached my office over this incident. In my opinion, their arrogance will sooner or later bring them into conflict with official forces. Coupled with Sun Hao awakening an S-rank class, it is clear the Black Tiger Guild will grow even stronger. The trouble will only worsen. The Black Tiger Guild once more. Lin Zhenghong slammed the documents onto the table, his expression grim. How should we resolve this matter? I want to hear your views. Several ministers exchanged glances. Some forced bitter smiles, others shook their heads. Newly awakened S-rank talents received special protection under Daxiao's laws. How could they take action? The frontline battlefields of Daxiao were already in a precarious state. Silence settled over the conference room. This predicament was incredibly thorny. Minister Zhao Hongyuan spoke up. The Black Tiger Guild has operated within Linhai City for decades, commanding over 100 practitioners. It ranks among the largest local guilds. If official forces strike directly, other guilds will grow anxious. Panic will spread, destabilizing Linhai City. Daxiao law grants guilds substantial autonomy. Unless they blatantly cross the red lines, the administration can do little more. We can only issue a stern warning. If warnings worked, Sun Dishing would have reined in his behavior long ago. Zhao Hongyuan massaged his temples and prepared to continue speaking. He caught sight of a raised hand out of the corner of his eye. Lu Xiyu, do you have something to say? I have a plan to deal with the Black Tiger Guild. Lu Xiyu stood to her feet. Dozens of pairs of eyes in the conference room turned toward her at once. Who is this? Mayor Lin Zhenghong narrowed his eyes. He had never laid eyes on this woman before. Her name is Lu Xiyu. She ranked first in the internal evaluation and now serves under me. Zhao Hongyuan rose, speaking earnestly. Oh, transferred from administrative staff to combat personnel? Lin Zhenghong looked surprised. Speak. Tell us your plan. Lu Xiyu nodded and pulled up a live surveillance feed. With a swipe of her finger, the footage projected onto the giant screen in the center of the room. Abandoned northern warehouse. The screen showed dense crowds of people. Even through the speakers, the brutal sounds of fighting could be felt. The Black Tiger Guild and the Bloody Hand Gang were locked in combat. Amid flashes of sword light, Over a dozen bodies already littered the ground. At the edge of the frame, 2 more convoys were heading toward the warehouse. "This is live footage from the abandoned northern warehouse," Lu Shiyu said calmly. 20 minutes ago, Sun Dishing, leader of the Black Tiger Guild, and Zhao Qian, vice leader of the Bloody Hand Gang, erupted into a large-scale guild brawl at the northern abandoned warehouse. The two sides have deployed more than 60 personnel combined. At least 12 people are confirmed dead so far, and casualties continue to rise. Sun Dishing himself lies seriously injured. Yet reinforcements keep pouring in. What? Lin Jinghong's pupils constricted slightly. He had received no word of this incident. How could an obscure female staff member know of it first? Gasps echoed through the conference room. Several ministers sat up straight, staring dumbfounded at the screen. As you can all see, the Black Tiger Guild and Bloody Hand Gang have grown brazen enough to commit such crimes, openly violating Daxia's laws. Action can be taken against them. I request permission to lead a team and arrest every last one of them. Lu Shiyu stood tall and resolute. At the northern warehouse, fighting had reached a fever pitch. Messages blared in group chats, and vehicles ferried reinforcements one after another. The scene resembled a gang conflict from old films. The ordinary fighters knew nothing about the divine artifact. They only knew they could not afford to lose face. Otherwise, how would they maintain their standing in the future? Until, woo, shrill police sirens tore through the northern suburbs night without warning. Tires of armored troop carriers rolled over weeds and gravel. Vehicle doors opened simultaneously. Official practitioners clad in dark blue uniforms poured out. Shield bearers and warriors advanced in the front ranks. Archers and mages stood in the rear, channeling skills within their palms. Everyone drop your weapons. Kneel with hands behind your heads. Immediately, a megaphone boomed across the warehouse district. The fighters still locked in battle were stunned by the show of force. One blood-crazed Bloody Hand Gang warrior hacked wildly at a heavy shield. He was tackled to the ground by 2 official practitioners and restrained. Several core members of the Black Tiger Guild attempted resistance. The moment they lifted their weapons, they were targeted by dozens of locked-on skills. One was struck down without any mercy. I surrender. Someone raised both hands. Magic projectiles still slammed into him regardless. Within minutes, both lines of combatants set down their weapons and knelt with their heads bowed. Hu Biao's broad-bladed battle axe was kicked aside. 3 shield bearers pinned him to the ground. His swollen cheek pressed against cold concrete, his face twisted with rage. Sun Hao remained hiding. He remained hiding behind an overturned sedan. He trembled the instant he heard the sirens, scrambling to crawl beneath the vehicle. An observant official practitioner grabbed his ankle and dragged him out. He screamed and clutched his head, dampness spreading across his trousers. Xiaolu stood atop the warehouse roof, watching the sudden mass arrest unfold below. Data streamed across the visor of his deep-sea helmet. "There is a person on the roof. Come down. Hands behind your head." A man's voice rang out from the side of the warehouse. Xiaolu slowly turned his head. The squad leader who had shouted stood there with a full team behind him. Skill glimmers lit up in their palms. "Do you hear me? Get down here. This is your final warning." Just then, "Halt!" A sharp shout came from behind the squad leader. The squad leader frowned and turned around. Lu Shiyu strode forward from behind an armored vehicle, her expression stern. She shot a sharp look at the officers. The squad leader's reluctance was clear, yet he stood at attention. "Ma'am, he's on our side." Lu Shiyu waved her hand, her tone softening slightly. "Take your team over there. I will handle this area." The squad leader's expression darkened. He glanced upward at Xiaolu, then waved his subordinates away to rejoin the main force. Once the squad leader and his team left, Lu Shiyu's rigid expression relaxed. She glanced left and right, then looked upward at Xiaolu with a bright grin. "Hey Xiaolu, guess what my new position is? I'm the lead commander for this operation." Xiaolu jumped down from the warehouse roof. The deep stride ability sent faint golden ripples spreading across the gravel as he landed silently. He had barely steadied himself before Lu Shiyu charged forward and embraced him tightly. The embrace came sudden and forceful, catching Xiaolu off guard. "We pulled it off. We really pulled it off," she whispered urgently. "Did you see it? They've all been detained. Both the Black Tiger Guild and Bloody Hand Gang have fallen. This counts as a severe violent incident. Higher authorities have long wanted to eliminate these factions. If everything proceeds smoothly, they are finished." Xiaolu was nearly unable to breathe in her tight hold. He lifted a hand and gently patted her back. He then raised his head. The helmet visor slid upward along its track with a quiet hiss. His young, handsome features were revealed beneath. A brilliant smile tugged at his lips. This plan was indeed reliable. It looks like we won't have to worry about the Black Tiger Guild anymore. Lu Shiyu stepped back, her hands still resting on his shoulders. She gazed at Xia Lu with deep emotion. You have no idea how surreal today has been. This morning I attended the internal assessment. No one believed in me. Everyone thought I was just an administrative clerk. In the end, I defeated all 11 participating practitioners. The artifacts you gave me were incredibly useful. I'm the first staff member ever to transfer from administration into combat duty. Want to guess how much I earn monthly now? 100,000. 20 times my old salary. Our good days have finally arrived. Her excitement grew as she spoke. Moreover, the operation we planned perfectly aligns with the wishes of Linhai City's senior officials. They have long viewed the Black Tiger Guild as a domineering blight on the city. I submitted this proposal, and I've been granted full authority over the mission. If we succeed, securing a place is guaranteed. Securing a place within Linhai City's inner power circle is guaranteed. Xiaolu, once we used to envy those who held power. Now we wield influence ourselves. Xiaolu was genuinely surprised. His aunt had rocketed upward at an astonishing pace. He had originally intended to use her as a channel to make use of the artifacts. The outcome, however, far exceeded his expectations. He had practically cleared her path to advancement. If this operation succeeds, what rank could you reach? Third highest authority in Linhai City. My direct superior holds the second position. Lu Shiyu considered for a moment and replied. Xiaolu nodded. Third in command carried tremendous weight. It would allow them to leverage the artifacts freely, without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. Their influence within Daxiao would continue to expand with time. Wait a moment, your equipment. When did you get new gear? Lu Shiyu finally noticed something unusual about Xia Li's appearance. She looked him up and down, her jaw dropping wider and wider. Trident of the Sea God. Good heavens. Isn't this the most famous divine artifact recorded in textbooks? Your entire set. Lu Shiyu stared in shock. Another full equipment change. Last time you had the goblin set. That's the blue sea dagger, I recognize it. But what kind of gauntlet is this? It looks as though flesh is embedded within it. It resembles tentacles from an octopus. And your armor seems wrapped in perpetual tides. Xiaolu looked at his stunned aunt and smiled. We'll talk about it once we get home. I'll give you a set. Wait, you're giving me a set? Lu Shiyu was completely stunned. This was the Trident of the Sea God. He offered it away so casually? What she did not know was that Xia Li's inventory was overflowing. The Trident of the Sea God dropped far too frequently. Early the next morning, Xia Li slowly opened his eyes. Today marked the day of the new practitioner assessment. The results would determine the future path. The results would determine the future path of every newly awakened practitioner. Thanks to the connection through his aunt, his future stretched out as a clear, promising road. Still, one aspect captured his full attention. One aspect of the assessment captured his full attention. Qualification to enter the endless battlefield. Only there could he encounter mythical races such as the dragons, elves, and giants. The artifacts dropped by those beings were the true, supreme treasures. The place functioned as an arena for all races. If the frontline defenses fell, the homeland of Daxia, the rear guard, would descend into hell. No matter how he considered it, the artifacts stockpiled in his storage would realize their full potential only within the endless battlefield. Xiaolu took a hot shower and dried his hair before walking out of the bathroom. Entering the living room, he spotted his aunt asleep on the sofa. A thin blanket loosely draped over her body. She had returned late the previous night. Evidently, she chose to rest on the sofa so she would not disturb him. Xiaolu shook his head with a soft smile at the sight. He stepped forward, bending to retrieve the blanket that was slipping toward the floor and tuck it securely around her. He tidied her footwear neatly beside the sofa as well. At that moment, Lu Shiyu abruptly sat upright. The blanket slid off her shoulders and pooled around her legs. Her hair was messy and disheveled. She blinked groggily, still half asleep. She spotted Xiaolu and scratched her head. Xiaolu, isn't today your practitioner assessment? Don't rush off. I'll drive you there. I haven't forgotten such an important day. Before Xiaolu could reply, she jumped down from the sofa, barefoot against the cool tiled floor, hurrying to get ready. Xiaolu watched his aunt in her casual nightwear and shook his head repeatedly. She truly treated him like family without reserve. 30 minutes later, a black sedan pulled steadily up to the main gate of Linhai No. 1 High School. The silver eagle insignia of the practitioner administration marked the side of the vehicle, and its license plate began with Official A. This was an official vehicle assigned to combat-ranked practitioners serving Linhai City's government. Since the school's founding, only city leaders on inspection visits had ever arrived in such a car. Every student at the school gate turned their heads. Someone recognized the official A plate and nearly spat out the soy milk in their mouth. Whoa, official A plates. Those are reserved for combat staff at the practitioner administration. There are barely a handful of these cars in all Linhai City. Another wealthy and influential young master, I suppose. Nothing to do with us. Could it be young master's son? Or one of the other heirs? It doesn't seem to match any of them. From the guardhouse, the principal caught sight of the sedan. The teacup in his hand nearly slipped from his grasp. He sprinted toward the gate, shouting back at the dean as he ran, voice thick with panic. Why is an official A vehicle outside our school? We received no notice of an official inspection today. The principal reached the car huffing and puffing, the dean close behind him. He leaned toward the door with his most polished, welcoming smile, extending a hand. Then he saw Xiaolu step out of the vehicle. The principal's smile froze. His hand hung suspended halfway between them, unsure whether to withdraw or remain outstretched. The dean's mouth fell open wide. His glasses slid down the bridge of his nose without him noticing. Xiaolu, the principal's voice trembled. How are you arriving in an official sedan? Wait a minute. Weren't you unable to successfully change classes? Have you already reached level 19? Xiaolu, what are you doing here? The headmaster stared at Xiaolu, utterly dumbfounded. He kept track of every influential family in town. Xiaolu, however, had lost his parents at a young age and survived on charity handouts. How could he possibly ride in an official vehicle of this standing? The backing implied by such transport was comparable to that of the Black Tiger Guild. Lu Xiyu had already returned to the car. Upon hearing the headmaster's words, irritation welled up inside her. Why shouldn't it be my Xiaola? Lu Xiyu halted before the headmaster, her expression darkening. Does the headmaster think Xiaolu is unworthy of riding in this vehicle? No, that's not what I meant. Cold sweat broke out on the headmaster's forehead at once. He waved his hands repeatedly. Officer Lu, I never imagined student Xiaolu had someone of your stature behind him. What kind of stature do you think I have? Lu Xiyu tilted her head, her tone icy. Ever since she became the third highest authority in Linhai City, she had never made an example out of anyone. For Xiaola's sake, she had no qualms about making an exception now, and this headmaster was clearly a sycophant. No, absolutely not, the headmaster hurried to reply. Officer Lu, student Xiaolu, the assessment is about to begin. Please follow me this way. The dean stood frozen beside them the entire time. Xiaolu, the boy who had failed his class awakening and sunk to the lowest rung of society, now stood before him in a position far beyond anything he could ever hope to reach. Students at the school gate erupted in commotion. Who's that woman? Why is the headmaster bowing to her? Look at her uniform. That's the official combat division attire. The badge on her left chest stands for a class authority. I have a relative working as a clerk in the administration bureau. He said only 5 people in the whole of Linhai City hold a class clearance. Xia Li's aunt is an A-class combat officer. Didn't he say she just worked an office job? Wait a minute, what on earth happened? Xia Li's already level 19, while I'm only level 10, 9 levels below him. How is this possible when he doesn't even have a class? I have to ask, can you level up after failing class awakening? Without skills or class traits, what good does leveling do? I just can't wrap my head around it. I think Xia Li's just grasping at straws. Even if his aunt gained influence now, what difference does it make? A failed awakening is a fatal flaw. I'm only level 12, but I'm confident I could take on his level 19 self one-on-one. Believe it or not, I could beat him too. More and more novice awakeners gathered. Everyone knew young Sun possessed an S-class, so they dared not dismiss him lightly. But for someone who did not even qualify for an F-class, they instinctively assumed he stood no chance. Just then, a taxi pulled up at the school gate. The door opened, and Sun Hao stepped out. He looked haggard, his designer clothes crumpled and disheveled. The marker level 3 hovered above his head. Watching him, the onlookers gaped in shock. Is that really young Sun? He looks utterly defeated. Level 3? Only yesterday, he was talking about booking the entire Sunken Ruins dungeon. How did he end up like this? Did he and Xiaolu swap storylines? Tisk. Word spread that the Black Tiger Guild was raided yesterday. Still, Sun Hao has an S-class. He might still have a shot. The crowd of novice awakeners kept growing, and the square buzzed with noise. At the front, several students who had also reached level 18 and above lined up. They all held A to B classes, confidence radiating from their faces. They were the top contenders for high rankings in this novice assessment. Among them was Lu Yutao, a level 22 A-class pyromancer. When he spotted level 3 Sun Hao, he burst into loud laughter. It seems first place in this assessment is mine for the taking. Level 19 with no class at all. How can you compete with me? The S-class prodigy had fallen. Now it was their time to shine. The headmaster stepped before the formation array and cleared his throat. His voice carried to every person through the sound-amplifying magic array. Silence, everyone. The Novice Awakener assessment is about to commence. The rules for this year's assessment are as follows. Each candidate will enter the assessment dungeon alone. Monsters of varying ranks will spawn inside. Points will be awarded based on clearing speed and monster kill count. The candidate with the highest total points will claim first place. The entire assessment will be live-streamed, with rankings displayed in real time on the large screen in the playground. In addition, we have received notice from the Great Xia military. Due to intense fighting on the boundless battlefield front lines, all Awakeners who have reached level 15 or higher in this cohort will be conscripted to serve on the boundless battlefield 1 month from now. This is an obligation stipulated by Great Xia law, and no one may refuse. There is only one exception. The first-place winner of this assessment will earn the right to choose their deployment time freely. You may deploy with the group in 1 month, or depart on your own once you feel fully prepared. During this waiting period, the military will offer you maximum support. The atmosphere on the playground shifted instantly. The boundless battlefield? Those 4 words landed like a bomb. That place was far crueler than any dungeon. If you died inside a dungeon, you could revive. Death on the boundless battlefield, however, was permanent. Every extra day of preparation meant a greater chance of survival. Maxing out your level and equipment in the rear before heading to battle was worlds apart from being rushed into service unprepared. The significance of claiming first place weighed heavier than ever. Whoever secured this privilege would boost their odds of staying alive. The Novice Awakeners below level 15 also wore grim expressions. They would eventually need to raise their levels, unless they intended to abandon their careers as Awakeners and sink permanently to the bottom of society. Forced deployment to the boundless battlefield? The front lines are stretched so thin they're drafting Novice Awakeners too. Xiaolu fell deep in thought. He had planned to travel to the boundless battlefield to unleash the full power of his divine artifacts. But he had no wish to rush there prematurely. Linhai City served as a major rear base, and there were still many benefits he had yet to claim. Only by winning first place could he carry out his plans properly. The Great Xia Novice Awakener assessment officially begins. The assessment dungeon is provided by the Great Xia military, custom-built for new Awakeners. It contains 7 stages, testing combat prowess, adaptability, and resolve in battle. Anyone who clears all 7 stages is truly exceptional. Only a handful of candidates have completed the full run in past years. You are hailed as the strongest cohort Linhai No. 1 High School has seen in a decade, and I look forward to seeing your performance. The assessment dungeon open. All novices, enter in order. As he finished speaking, the teleportation array for the assessment dungeon slowly unfolded in the center of the playground. Over 100 novices formed lines and stepped into the swirling vortex entrance one after another. A low hum echoed from the array each time a candidate vanished. Xiaolu stood midway in the queue. One by one, the students ahead disappeared into blue light, and soon it was his turn. The moment he stepped into the vortex, a dizzying sensation washed over him. When he opened his eyes again, his feet stood firmly on solid ground. A dry, grassy stench filled the air, mixed with the earthy odor of soil and livestock dung. He scanned his surroundings and found himself inside a yard enclosed by wooden fences. The ground was packed loose, hard beneath his feet. Straight ahead, 5 bullhorn monsters fixed their bloodshot eyes on him. They lowered their heads and scraped the ground with their hooves, immediately locking all their aggro on him. They were nearly the size of adult rhinos, covered in rough, gray-brown hide. Most striking were their curved horns, each as thick as a human arm, their tips sharp enough to pierce steel plates. Bullhorn monster, level 15, HP, 220,000, damage, 457890, skills, savage charge, trample, description, gatekeepers of the first assessment stage. Thick-skinned and immensely powerful. The moment they made eye contact, the bullhorn monsters charged without hesitation. They roared furiously, kicking up clouds of lust. Their massive bodies cut through the wind as they barreled towards Xiaolu, with the other 4 charging close behind. Their combined assault covered a 15-meter radius. The ground rumbled beneath their hooves. Ordinary people would struggle to dodge, and standing firm against the attack was even harder. The first stage immediately demanded a clever solution. Xiaolu remained where he stood. A crimson light flickered on his ruby ring, and the trident of the sea god materialized in his grasp. The instant the trident appeared, the air around him grew noticeably damp. He gripped the weapon single-handedly and stepped forward. He swept the trident horizontally toward the 5 charging bullhorn monsters. A shrill tearing sound split the air as the trident cut through it. A 20-meter-long blade of surging seawater shot forth from the tip. The seawater was compressed to an almost solid state the second it left the trident. The leading bullhorn monster tried to shrug off the water blade, relying on its tough hide to endure the blow, but the blade drove straight into its chest. The gray-brown hide sliced open like paper. Before blood could even spray out, the force of the impact sent the monster tumbling onto its back. The 4 bullhorn monsters behind it were cut down in sequence by the same water blade, wiped out in a single strike. When the water mist faded, the 5 bullhorn monsters lay scattered across the lush yard, each split almost entirely in 2 by a gushing wound. Sea God's Surge triggered. Congratulations. You have slain a level 15 bullhorn monster using the trident of the Sea God. Experience gained. 12,000. Congratulations. You have slain a level 15 bullhorn monster using the trident of the Sea God. Experience gained. 12,005. Kill notifications popped up simultaneously. Congratulations. You have cleared stage 1 of the assessment dungeon. Time elapsed. 1.2 seconds. Teleportation gate to stage 2 has opened. A small portal materialized within the yard. Xiaolu did not rush onward. He waited quietly. Soon, golden beams shot toward the sky. He did not hold out much hope that bullhorn monsters would drop top-tier divine artifacts, but by his principles, no loot should ever go to waste. 3 of the 5 golden light columns took the shape of horns. Name: Golden Bullhorn. Type: Accessory headwear. Required level: Level 10. Usable classes: Warrior, Knight, Berserker. Grade: Divine Artifact. Premium stat bonuses: Strength plus 500, Constitution plus 400. Effect: Savage Charge. The wearer launches a forward charge up to 30 meters. All enemies along the path are forcibly knocked airborne for 3 seconds and suffer additional physical damage equal to 400 of the wearer's strength upon landing. While charging, the wearer is immune to all crowd control effects and cannot be interrupted. If obstacles lie along the path, they will be shattered, dealing splash damage to enemies within 5 meters behind the obstruction. Cooldown: 30 seconds. Effect: Golden Trample. The wearer stomps the ground violently. All ground targets within a 15-meter radius receive physical damage equal to 350 of the wearer's strength and are stunned for 2 seconds. Airborne enemies take double damage, are slammed forcefully to the ground, and receive extra fall damage equal to 200 strength. The trampled area fractures and sinks, reducing all enemies' movement speed by 60 within the 15-meter zone for 8 seconds. Cooldown: 2 minutes. Effect: Golden Horn Jab. The wearer thrusts forward with the golden bullhorns atop their head, delivering a fierce upward jab that launches a single target airborne for 2 seconds. This skill ignores the target's super armor, crowd control immunity, defensive abilities, and boss resistances. It guarantees a hit and guaranteed airborne status. While airborne, targets cannot move, attack, or cast spells. Cooldown: 1 second. Description: This pair of golden horns once belonged to Morg, king of the bullhorn monsters. Morg ruled herds of bullhorn monsters spanning 300 li across the northern wasteland. His charge could shatter city walls, and his trample could sink the ground 3 zhang deep. Legends claim he destroyed 11 castles, 7 watchtowers, and 1 troll stronghold in his lifetime. Just charge forward. No need to overthink it. This golden bullhorn seems similar to the golden spiked club. One forcibly sends enemies flying, the other inflicts stuns. Still, the golden bullhorn has a higher level requirement and grants better stats. What's more, it's headwear, so it doesn't occupy other equipment slots. Xiaolu picked up the golden bullhorn, its weight heavy in his hands. Gold prices were soaring right now. Even selling the raw material alone would fetch a tidy sum. He fitted it onto his forehead and immediately felt a surge of strength. The remaining 2 beams of light contained a piece of defensive gear, bullhide armor. Its effects were rather mediocre, only boosting maximum HP and passive HP regeneration. It had little practical use for him at present, so he stored it away. Xiaolu stowed the armor inside his ruby ring and proceeded to the next stage. The golden bullhorn resting on his forehead felt heavy. A strange urge welled up inside him, making him want to ram something. Xiaolu adjusted to the sensation for several seconds before stepping through the portal. His feet had barely touched the ground when the floor dropped out beneath him. A large net woven from rough hemp rope snapped shut from below, lifting him upward. Sharp cackling laughter echoed all around. The sound could only belong to goblins. Stage 2 opened with a trap straight away. The Great Xia military certainly knew how to design trials. Gripping the net suspending him, Xiaolu scanned his surroundings. Dozens of rickety wooden platforms stood all around. 3 to 5 goblin stone throwers crouched atop each platform, slapping their thighs and laughing wildly as they pointed at Xiaolu. Several were already loading fist-sized stones into their slings, seemingly intent on bludgeoning him to death. Xiaolu adjusted his posture inside the net and tilted his head down. The golden horns on his forehead pointed forward. Savage charge. Blinding golden light enveloped the bullhorns. Xiaolu turned into a golden blur, charging straight through the net. The hemp netting along his path tore completely apart. Support beams for the wooden platforms snapped, sending the structures crashing to the ground. The goblin stone throwers atop them screamed as they fell. One platform toppled after another like dominoes, kicking up clouds of dust. When the momentum of his charge faded, Xiaolu had broken out of the goblin encampment. Behind him lay a wrecked ruin, with countless goblins trapped beneath the debris, wailing in pain. On the playground's large screen, live feeds of thousands of candidates cleared simultaneously. As the bullhorn monsters charged at the start of Stage 1, more than a dozen candidates were eliminated instantly. A level 13 C-class warrior failed to raise his shield in time and was sent flying by a horn, vanishing in a wisp of white light mid-air. A B-class assassin tried to circle around using mobility skills, but could not escape. Caught between 2 bullhorn monsters' intersecting charges, his HP dropped to 0 in an instant. Screams and flickering teleport array light erupted one after another. Teachers and parents watching on the playground simply shuddered at the sight. Stage 1 is brutal. 5 level 15 bullhorn monsters charging together. There's nowhere to dodge. My son's a C-class shield guardian, usually tough and reliable. He got launched straight away without even a chance to lift his shield. I don't think a shield could hold anyway. No one can tank that assault. The best you can hope for is avoiding instant death. This difficulty is nothing like previous years. Did the Great Xia military crank it up on purpose? One eliminated candidate tumbled out of the teleport array. Covered in dirt and red-eyed, he shouted. Throwing 5 bullhorn monsters right at Stage 1? No dungeon is designed like this. I farmed beginner dungeons for a week and never faced anything like this. I didn't even last 10 seconds. Is this assessment meant for humans? Most eliminated candidates immediately checked the rankings to see if others were struggling as badly. They stared in disbelief at what they saw. The top line of the leaderboard read, clearly, Xiaolu. Stage 1 clear time, 1.2 seconds. 1.2 seconds? Someone cried out involuntarily. He finished clearing before I could even lift my shield. How is that possible? This is Xiaolu, the boy who failed class awakening and has no class at all. How did he pull this off? Cheating. He must be cheating. 1.2 seconds means the bullhorn monsters never even reached him before they were slain. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Truly terrifying. Meanwhile, inside the Stage 1 arena, Lu Yutao, the level 22 A-class pyromancer, stood beside the last bullhorn monster's corpse. He leaned on his flame staff, gasping heavily. 3 slashes from bullhorns had torn his mage robes, and his HP was nearly depleted. He chugged a health potion, restoring his vitality to a safe threshold. The 5 bullhorn monsters lay scattered around him, their hides scorched black by flame. Stage 1 cleared. Lu Yutao pushed himself upright using his staff, a weary yet triumphant smile spreading across his face. This novice assessment is far too difficult. I doubt many students in the entire grade could survive the charge of 5 bullhorn monsters. That S-class Sun Hao is finished, and Xiaolu with no class will likely fail Stage 1. It looks like I'll be the first to clear. I'm going to take first place in this assessment. Chuckling to himself, he steadied his state and strode into Stage 2 of the assessment. Then his confidence wavered. He had barely glanced around when the ground fell away beneath his feet. A large hemp net coated in green resin sprang upward from underfoot. The net enveloped him together with his staff. The ropes instantly tightened, hoisting him into mid-air like a wrapped rice dumpling. He reacted swiftly. The moment the net constricted, a ball of fire materialized in his left palm. Yet when the resin met the flames, it did not burn through. Instead, thick, acrid black smoke hissed upward. Tears and mucus streamed down his face from the fumes. A trap. And it has magic resistance? Who designs a dungeon like this? Lu Yutao panicked, his mind going blank. He could not think of any way to break free. Gak 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 gak. From more than a dozen lopsided wooden platforms all around, goblin slingers cackled. Mages naturally possessed frail defenses. His health plummeted rapidly under the sustained damage. Wall of flame. Gritting his teeth, Lu Yutao conjured a barrier of fire before him. It barely blocked the stones striking him head-on, but it shattered after only a few seconds. This is pure torment. No one can get past this. Lu Yutao's cries echoed above the goblin camp. Many examiners shook their heads as they watched. It seems the second floor is the limit for new examinees. He still couldn't make it. With strength like this, entering the boundless battlefield is nothing but walking to one's doom. Wait, look! Someone cleared the second floor. At those words, every gaze turned toward the leaderboard. First place, Xiaolu. Second floor cleared. Time elapsed, 17 seconds. On the second floor, Xiaolu gripped the trident of the sea god. He swept the weapon straight through the camp ruins, slaying goblins alongside debris in a single blow. You have slain a goblin slinger LV.13 using the trident of the sea god. Experience gained. 15,000. You have slain a goblin slinger LV.15 using the trident of the sea god. Experience gained. 17,000. You have leveled up to LV.20. All attributes +5, multiple beams of golden light shot skyward once more. The goblin race's artifacts had already been fully farmed. No new relics appeared. Golden spiked club ×7, rogue armor ×6, shadow thief gloves ×6. Identical artifacts completely filled the storage space inside his ruby ring. What made matters worse, he could not simply discard these relics at will. The situation gave him quite the headache. Ideally, he would assemble a team, equipping each member with an artifact to expand his influence. Yet in this world rife with schemes and plots, finding trustworthy allies was far from easy. He needed to tackle high-difficulty dungeons to obtain even stronger artifacts. He simply lacked the time and energy for tedious social maneuvering. Fortunately, his young aunt was someone he could trust unconditionally. Thanks to her successive feats, she now firmly held the third highest position in Linhai City. In the future, it would be relatively simple to assemble a reliable team leveraging her authority. He could remain hidden in the background, supplying his surplus artifacts. That would be enough to bind everyone's interests together. Naturally, these people would stand to protect Great Xia and their homeland. They would not commit wicked acts out of selfish desire, and Xiaolu would never stoop to such methods himself. In this era where power ruled above all else, once he raised his level and fully outfitted himself with artifacts, would he even need to strive for authority? This plan existed solely to make use of his surplus artifacts, while contributing to the rise of Great Xia. Nothing more. Xiaolu regained his focus, his thoughts settling. Amid the pile of artifacts, he discovered a second ruby ring. This item had an extremely low drop rate. He had slain countless goblins only to obtain this second one. One ruby ring on each hand. Storage capacity doubled. He stowed all artifacts within the second ruby storage dimension. Xiaolu scanned the goblin ruins to confirm nothing had been overlooked, then stepped toward the third floor. Considering this is an examination dungeon, could we at least get a dragon or giant as a monster? Xiaolu waited in anticipation as the world spun around him. When his senses steadied, one sensation overwhelmed him. Heat. Unbearable heat. These examination dungeons sure love opening ambushes. Xiaolu could not help but complain. He knew instantly that danger awaited him from the very start. Since the dungeon could not kill him outright, it would spare no effort to hinder him. He opened his eyes, surrounded by roaring flames. Tall fires blazed everywhere. Moments later, he realized he could not move his hands or feet. He was bound to a wooden pole as thick as a bowl. Coarse hemp rope wound through the gaps between the scales of his azure sea armor, tying him firmly to the timber. Beneath his feet piled stacks of dry firewood, with flames crackling upward. Damage values floated continuously above his head. It was undoubtedly damage from the searing heat. At the same time, Xiaolu spotted a teleportation formation leading to the fourth floor not far away. His eyes narrowed slightly. In other words, I only need to escape this burning stake to enter the fourth floor. Was this floor purely a test of the examinee's ability to escape and adapt? Anyone who failed to find a way out before their health depleted would be eliminated. This is rather dull. I was hoping to fight a powerful boss. Xiaolu clicked his tongue, disappointed. He was just about to finish the ordeal quickly when chanting echoed from all sides. Someone was casting a spell. His eyes lit up. There was indeed a powerful foe, and it could chant magic incantations. It must be a high-order intelligent creature. He strained against his restraints, yet the hemp rope did not shift an inch. A prompt appeared before his eyes. This binding is part of the plot sequence and cannot be broken by force. Huh? A forced plot encounter. The third stage designed by Great Xia's military doesn't even grant a chance to resist. They tie you to a burning stake the moment you arrive. Still, for someone fully equipped with artifacts like him, this posed no true threat. The flames beneath burned hotter and hotter. The base of the wooden pole blackened and split, creaking under mounting strain. Xiaolu surveyed his surroundings. He stood within a circular sacrificial plaza, with several thick stone pillars rising nearby. Xiaolu slowly raised his right hand, aiming toward one of the pillars. A dark green tentacle shot forth in an instant. Suction cups lining the tentacle's tip expanded, latching firmly onto the midsection of the pillar. The tentacle contracted violently. The immense force tore apart the wooden pole, dragging Xiaolu along with the broken timber sideways away from the fire. Sparks scattered all along his path. The wooden pole crashed against the stone pillar with a sharp crack. Charred and brittle from the flames, it finally snapped completely. The ropes fell loose, restoring movement to his limbs. Xiaolu rotated his wrists and rose from the scattered splinters and ash. The burning stake restraint was no obstacle to him. The chanting continued without pause. He turned his gaze toward the sound. There, standing at the edge of the altar, was a witch with a hooked nose. She was wrapped in a dark purple robe trimmed with edging strung from the finger bones of some unknown creature. Her withered hands clutched an ancient grimoire, its cover appearing to be crafted from human skin. An aura of ominous eeriness emanated from her. Deep wrinkles lined her face, her skin an unhealthy shade of grayish-green. Her eye sockets sank deeply, and her cloudy eyes remained fixed on the ancient book as her lips moved in constant incantation. Darkfire Witch Morna. Level, LV.30 Boss. Health, 188,000. Description: a fallen witch who once offered living sacrifices on the northern wasteland to gain power. Captured by Great Xia's military and placed within the examination dungeon as the third-floor guardian. Note: defeating this boss is not required. She will not initiate hostilities. Escape quickly and proceed to the fourth floor. You expect me to run just because you say so? That would be far too undignified. Xia Li's eyes lit up as he stared at the boss. A highly intelligent being who could speak and chant incantations, a genuine boss at that. The artifacts she dropped might well surpass those from the merfolk tribe. Xiaolu studied the witch carefully. She seemed utterly absorbed by her book, never lifting her gaze from the pages as her lips continued to murmur. This foe's combat power is unpredictable. She clearly will not be easy to deal with. She likely possesses several unsettling mechanics. I must defeat her in one continuous assault. Xiaolu pondered. The Trident of the Sea God excelled at area of effect attacks against minions, yet it could not instantly eliminate a boss. He had 3 optimal pieces of equipment at hand. The Golden Spiked Club, guaranteed to stun targets with a headshot. The Golden Bull Horn, forcing targets to be lifted and suspended mid-air. And the Azure Sea Scimitar, stacking poison and boosting movement speed for single target execution. Unbroken crowd control guaranteed an instant kill. With that thought, he quietly advanced toward the witch boss. At the observation platform, Mayor Lin Zhenghong and numerous senior officials of Linhai City had all gathered. The annual professional candidate examination would shape Linhai City's future trajectory. The principal bowed beside Mayor Lin Zhenghong, speaking ingratiatingly. Mayor Lin, look at Lu Yutao. An A-tier fire mage at LV.22, he holds the highest level among all candidates this year. During the first stage, facing a charge from 5 horned ox beasts, he used terrain to draw them out. He was trapped in the second stage, yet he burned through the net with his flame aura to break free. Right now, he is challenging the third stage boss. It is truly rare to discover talent like him this year. Leaning back in his chair, Lin Zhenghong nodded slightly. Impressive indeed. At LV.22, he has come this far. He will be able to stand his ground 1 month from now when he enters the boundless battlefield. He lifted his teacup and took a sip, casually glancing toward the leaderboard. The next moment, he froze completely. He stared again in disbelief. This Xiaolu, 1.2 seconds to clear the first floor? 17 seconds for the second? What kind of prodigy is this? Lin Zhenghong turned toward the principal. The principal's expression turned awkward at once. Mayor, this student named Xiaolu suffered a failed class awakening. I have no idea how he grew so powerful. The school has offered him no support whatsoever. A failed class awakening. Lin Zhenghong grew even more astonished. The senior officials of Linhai City began murmuring among themselves. A prodigy who rose to greatness after failing class awakening? There was no precedent for such a thing throughout history. At that moment, Minister Zhao Hongyuan suddenly spoke. Lu Shiyu, I recall you mentioning this Xiaolu is your nephew? Lu Shiyu sat toward the back of the observation platform. She smiled proudly and replied, that is correct. He is my nephew. All those present exchanged glances. Their attitudes toward Lu Shiyu instantly turned far warmer. Forming good relations with the family of such a prodigy would undoubtedly bring great benefits. Moreover, After leading the operation to wipe out the Black Tiger Guild, Lu Shiyu had risen to become the third-ranked official of Linhai City, wielding substantial authority. Lu Shiyu listened to the stream of praise surrounding her, unable to suppress her smile. Mayor Lin Zhenghong asked curiously. Still, Lu Shiyu, there is one thing I cannot understand. Your nephew failed his class awakening, yet he achieves such results. 1.2 seconds for the first floor, 17 seconds for the second. This speed far surpasses the limits of ordinary professional warriors. Without class bonuses or class-exclusive skills, how has he accomplished all of this? Lu Shiyu's mind flashed to the various artifacts Xia Lu had displayed. She shook her head with a smile. That is his secret. Truthfully, I do not know all the details myself. This boy has always been independent, bearing everything alone. As his aunt, I only learned how formidable he truly is by watching him compete in this examination today. Lin Zhenghong observed her expression and chose not to press further. Everyone seated here was sharp-witted. They could tell there was more to the story. Yet picking a quarrel over this matter would bring no benefits. Just then, someone monitoring the screens cried out in alarm. Look at Xia Lu on the third floor. He escaped the burning stake, but he is not running toward the fourth floor portal. Every pair of eyes locked onto Xia Li's surveillance feed. On screen, he crept steadily toward the witch boss. What is he doing? The principal exclaimed in shock. The third stage boss, the Darkfire Witch, was captured by Great Xia's military from the northern wasteland. Her strength matches Wild LV. 45 monsters. She was only placed here to stabilize the examination dungeon. The golden spiked club rested ready behind Xia Li's back. Xia Lu fixed his gaze firmly on the back of the witch boss's head. Of all the heads he had struck, this witch's was by far the ugliest, resembling a durian. The witch boss emanated an unfathomable aura. He needed to strike without warning. He activated Deep Stride, and ripples of dim gold spread outward across the ground. Abyssal submersion. The ground rippled like ocean water, and Xia Lu sank beneath the surface. Only a shrinking black fissure remained where he had stood. The next instant, dim golden ripples and a splitting black rift appeared on the ground less than 3 paces behind the witch. Xia Lu emerged silently. His right hand tightened around the golden spiked club, raised high above his shoulder. He licked his lips, eyes locked on the unsightly back of her head. The witch suddenly moved. She tilted her head slightly, her cloudy gaze turning toward him. A chill ran through Xia Lu beneath that stare. It radiated unspeakable malice and evil, as if she had laid eyes upon a natural foe. Her chanting tone twisted abruptly, echoing like whispers directly inside Xia Li's ears. Strange syllables flooded his mind, threatening to drag him into another realm. A place housing indescribable entities, not to be touched, not to be observed. Fortunately, the deep-sea helmet carried resistance against such eldritch power. A pale blue mental barrier ignited along the inner surface of the helmet's visor. Xia Li's mind cleared at once, and the hallucinations faded away. Only then did he notice he was drenched in cold sweat. This witch boss was terrifying beyond measure. Deep-sea helmet, mental barrier activated. Mental attack immunity granted. The witch boss's attack had failed. Now it was his turn. He pushed off with his legs, leaping forward a short distance. The 3-meter gap closed in an instant. The golden spiked club swung forward with crushing force, crashing straight into the back of her head. The witch boss sensed the incoming danger. She let out a shriek and tried to dodge. Unfortunately, her body was frail. Boom. The golden spiked club slammed against the back of her skull. A dull thud echoed, sounding much like a rotten watermelon being crushed. Ugh, truly a rotten skull. Striking it feels deeply unsatisfying. Xia Lu muttered internally and charged forward immediately. He twisted his right wrist, and the azure sea scimitar slid smoothly into his grasp. When it came to single target damage, the azure sea scimitar stood at the pinnacle. After being struck by the club, the witch boss let out a muffled groan. She stumbled forward several steps and dropped to her knees. Her withered right hand clutched the back of her head, her upper body swaying unsteadily as she struggled to recover from the stun. She relied on spiritual magic attacks, while Xia Lu wielded physical blows that assaulted the mind. The advantage was plain to see. The stun interrupted the witch boss's incantation. The entire sacrificial plaza shuddered violently. Runes etched across the ground flickered frantically, and limestone dust showered down from the shaking stone pillars. It appeared some form of backlash was building. I must finish her quickly. Xia Li's gaze sharpened. The azure sea scimitar was drawn. Its eerie green blade carved a trail of light amid the flames as it sliced across her flank, cutting through her robes and flesh. Deep-sea corrosive venom ate away at her body with a sizzling hiss. His movement speed increased by 100%. Xia Li's second strike came even faster. Then a third, a fourth. With poison continuously stacking, his movements blurred beyond naked sight. The blade even created sharp cracks in the air as it moved. The witch swayed repeatedly under the onslaught. Her stun duration neared its end. He brought the club crashing down against the back of her head once more. A second stun took hold. The golden spiked club truly deserves its reputation as a boss-slaying artifact. Xiaolu could not help but praise it silently. The witch's health steadily dwindled to zero beneath the relentless flurry of strikes. She barely managed to mount any counterattack. Her cloudy eyes darted around in frantic desperation. To be defeated in such a stifling manner? She died with unyielding resentment. Finally, she let out a shrill scream. Her grayish-green body crumbled into a pile of dry bones amid the erupting venom. The bones clattered onto the altar stone. Congratulations. You have slain Darkfire Witch Morna LV.30 boss using the Azure Sea Scimitar. Experience gained, 280,000 points. You have leveled up to LV.22. All attributes plus 5. You have leveled up to LV.23. All attributes plus 5. Beams of leveling light rose from Xia Li's body. He panted lightly, a delighted smile spreading across his face. He had defeated this witch boss in less than 3 seconds. He landed 2 club strikes in that span. The smooth combat flow was pure exhilaration. Now, let me see what artifact you drop. A dark golden beam shot straight upward from the witch's skeletal remains. A spherical object slowly rose from the light, floating before Xiaolu. This is a crystal orb. Its surface was polished smooth as a mirror. Inside swirled an unending mass of dark purple smoke, turning slowly as if it contained a miniature world unto itself. Name: Orb of Resentful Curses. Type: Weapon. Equipable level: LV.25. Usable classes: mages, warlocks, witches, and similar professions. Quality: legendary artifact, premium grade. Attribute bonuses: intelligence plus 1,200, agility plus 200. Special effect: Resentful Gaze. The wearer may plant a single seed of resentment on any target, which persists until the wearer chooses to dispel it. The location of any target bearing a seed of resentment will appear as a projection within the crystal orb, ignoring all distance and planar barriers. After 3 days, each seed of resentment fully matures into an adaptive curse, its form determined by the target's nature. Potential curses include agony, misfortune, plague, and more. Up to 10 seeds of resentment may be maintained simultaneously. Special effect: Cursed Puppetry. Whenever a seed of resentment fully matures into a true curse, the wearer may remotely detonate that curse. The afflicted target must pass a willpower check. Should they fail, they are permanently transformed into a cursed puppet under the wearer's control until destroyed. All puppets gain an additional 100% base attributes and inherit all curse-related modifiers from the wearer's special effects. Special effect: Curse Fusion. The wielder may fuse any 2 curse puppets under their command, or 1 mature curse alongside 1 puppet. Within the crystal orb, a brand new wraith spawn of resentment will be formed. The fused creation inherits 100 of all stats from both sacrifices as bonus attributes, along with their original growth rates. If the fusion materials include a mature curse such as agony, misfortune, and so forth, the creation gains the matching curse aura, which automatically affects all surrounding enemies. Description: This crystal orb coalesced from the soul remnants of Morna, the Darkfire Witch. Obsessed with peering into the fates of others, she sowed seeds known as curses. When she watched those seeds sprout and turn living beings into puppets under her control, she experienced supreme delight. Today, that twisted joy is sealed inside this orb, awaiting a new master to reap its power. Whoa, I just got my hands on a mighty divine artifact. Divine artifacts dropped by bosses are truly in a league of their own. Xiaolu stared at the dark purple crystal orb in his grasp, utterly captivated. Long-distance cursing, remote control of constructs. This ability was simply overpowered, especially on the endless battlefield, where countless races fought endlessly against one another. He could silently plant a curse seed on an enemy. Once the target returned to their settlement, all their secrets would be laid bare. Worse still, he could spread the resentment to remotely destabilize and annihilate entire foreign clans. And there was the fusion ability on top of everything else. He could cultivate the ultimate vessel of malice. If foreign factions laid eyes on this treasure, they would tear each other apart fighting to claim it. This professional assessment was well worth the effort. This crystal orb alone makes all the hardship worthwhile. The sacrificial square continued to tremble before slowly collapsing. Without the witch boss sustaining it, nothing remained but rubble. Xiaolu stepped onto the teleportation array leading to the fourth stage. A dizzying swirl swept over his vision once more. Observation Gallery. Lin Jinghong, the city mayor, and the rest of Linhai City's high-ranking officials had all risen to their feet. Shock washed over their faces, and waves of astonishment churned inside them. He actually defeated the witch boss. That is the background boss of the third stage. It would not attack unprovoked. The Great Xia military marked it as not required to be slain. This stage was designed to test candidates' ability to escape, not to duel the boss head-on. Yet he killed her. I still can't wrap my head around it. How can someone who failed their class advancement be this powerful? He single-handedly defeated the boss without the slightest struggle. The equipment he wears is extraordinary. Every piece is at minimum grade A. The principal wore a vastly different expression. He sank back into his chair, his tone bitter. The witch boss is dead. How am I supposed to report this? The Great Xia military captured her from the northern frontier to serve as the assessment's background boss. And now she's been struck down. What will we do for next year's assessment? Witches are incredibly difficult to capture. Lu Xiu sat quietly in the back row, observing intently. In particular, she spotted what appeared to be a brand new piece of equipment in Xia Li's possession. She subtly scanned those around her. It seemed no one else had caught wind of the secret. That put her mind at ease. Another familiar wave of vertigo washed over him. Upon entering the fifth stage, his wrists and ankles were bound once again. Xiaolu opened his eyes with a sigh. The assessment dungeon was endlessly fond of this trick. He had long since grown accustomed to it. A foul stench mixed with thick raw meat odor hung thick in the air. He found himself tied up inside a low stone hut. The walls were stacked from rough, gray stone blocks, with dry moss crammed into every crack. Through barred windows carved into the rock, he could see the flickering glow of campfires outside. Beyond the hut stretched a crude encampment. Crooked wooden stakes propped up tattered tents made from beast hides. At the center of the camp sat a massive black cauldron. Milky white broth bubbled and churned within it. Every so often, human bones bobbed upward amid the roiling bubbles. 5 ogres circled the cauldron. They stood twice as tall as adult humans, their bodies covered in coarse, slate-blue skin. Their bellies bulged hugely. Necklaces strung from beast fangs and human finger bones draped around their throats. Yellow tusks jutted out from their lower jaws, strings of saliva dripping onto the ground. One ogre stirred the soup with a thick wooden pole. Every couple of stirs, it glanced toward the stone hut. Murky small eyes burned with ravenous hunger. TCH, these things plan to cook me? How bold of them. Common ogre, level, LV. 15, HP, 30,000, damage, 1250, skills, heavy strike, hurl boulder, greedy maul. Description, ordinary members of the ogre race tasked with guarding captured prey. They possess insatiable appetites and minimal intelligence, yet display surprising patience when waiting for their meals. Even while their prey still lives, they will bicker over which portion each of them gets to eat. I wonder what divine artifacts these creatures can drop. I hope it's nothing revolting. Xiaolu shook his head. He held little hope for loot from the ogre clan. Still, testing the Wraithspawn crystal orb would be worthwhile. Peering through the hut's wooden bars, Xiaolu surveyed his surroundings. At the far end of the camp, a miniature teleportation array spun silently. That must be the gateway to the 6th stage. Just like the previous trial, this stage tested escape capabilities. That said, he hated letting potential resources go to waste. He intended to slay every last one of these ogres. Even lesser divine artifacts were still divine artifacts after all. He lay back on the stone bed. A faint crimson light flickered from his ruby ring, and the Wraithspawn crystal orb materialized, hovering above his chest. Dark purple smoke swirled slowly inside the sphere. Wraithspawn seed. Strange chanting syllables surfaced unbidden within his mind. He began to recite the obscure incantation. He stumbled at first, yet quickly grew fluent, as if the words came naturally to him. As his chant continued, smoke within the orb churned faster like thick ink. Images gradually solidified within the sphere, reflecting the steaming giant cauldron outside the hut and the 5 ogres gathered around it. The vision sharpened to crystal clarity. Xiaolu sensed an innate urge to bend reality through the orb. His gaze swept across the vision inside the sphere, locking onto the smallest ogre. He would test his power on the weaker target first. Driven by his will, strands of dark purple smoke wove together to form the shape of a seed. It drifted downward and implanted itself onto the ogre's silhouette inside the crystal orb. The Wraithspawn seed had successfully taken root. This feels exactly like casting a curse from afar. Remote curses without physical contact, utterly terrifying. Xiaolu muttered to himself, then glanced toward the barred window. Outside, that same ogre stretched out a hand to snatch a scrap of meat splashed from the cauldron, eating greedily without a care for anything else. All of a sudden, it twisted its back, seemingly plagued by discomfort. Yet its craving for meat kept it eating nonstop. Its behavior grew increasingly erratic. Rough claws scratched repeatedly at its back, drawing bloody gashes across its skin. The Wraithspawn seed had begun to take effect. So this is how the seeds function. I should plant one on Sun how once I escape this trial. Xiaolu nodded thoughtfully. Within the smoky vision inside the crystal orb, a lump protruded from the ogre's nape. Webs of veins spread across the surrounding skin, pulsing with every heartbeat. It resembled a parasite burrowing into flesh. Wraithspawn seed implanted. Target: ogre, variant. Itch seed, states, dormant/detonate. The growth rate of Wraithspawn seeds varies between different creatures. Common ogres seem to nurture seeds far quicker. No need to wait 3 full days. It should fully mature within roughly an hour. Xiaolu quietly assessed his new ability. He then tensed his arms. Rusty iron manacles creaked loudly before warping and snapping apart. Against his nearly 2,000 strength stat, these restraints were worthless. Now it was time to play with his captors. At that moment, indistinct voices echoed outside the stone hut, the guttural tongue of the ogres. Thanks to his interface translation, Xiaolu could understand every word. The soup is ready. The ogre stirring the broth tapped its wooden pole against the cauldron's rim. That human is ready to be tossed in. The meat in the broth has nearly boiled away. We need fresh flesh to add flavor. Humans taste great. I want to eat human flesh. The other ogres cheered. I want the choicest meat cuts. The smallest ogre raised its hand at once. It's nourishing. The prime portions belong to me. You already got the best cuts last time. Another ogre surged to its feet, grabbing the small ogre roughly. A delicacy like that would be wasted on you. Silence. The soup-stirring ogre roared. Knock him unconscious first. It is easier to skin prey that cannot struggle. As it spoke, it lifted a massive stone club leaning beside the cauldron and strode toward the stone hut. Back in the observation gallery, nearly every spectator's attention remained fixed on Xiaolu. Lu Yutao, once widely favored by the officials, was still trapped in the second stage, locked in a battle of wits against goblins. I fear Xiaolu will fail this stage, the equipment section chief said grimly. The 5th stage is brutally difficult. 5 ogres wait outside the stone hut. The wooden door is barred shut from outside, and the stone walls are too thick to break through. The Great Xia military designed this trial to test how candidates react when trapped in a hopeless situation. Escaping earns a perfect score. Precisely. These are LV.15 elite monsters with thick hides and massive HP pools. Even LV.25 professionals would sustain heavy injuries fighting 5 at once. Direct combat is impossible. They must rely on strategy. Scarcely more than 2 hands' worth of new recruits across the entire Great Xia have cleared the 5th stage. Every single one of those candidates grew into renowned powerhouses who rendered invaluable service to our nation. Truth be told, passing the 4th stage is already an incredible achievement, especially after slaying the witch boss. But he failed his class advancement. Without class bonuses, no one can tell how far he can go. You're right. His upper limits are already sealed. Lu Shiyu listened to the chatter, her small fists clenched tight. She stared at Xiaolu on the screen, silently cheering him on in her heart. Xiaolu, you can do it. Then, the screen captured a thunderous crash. The iron door of the stone hut burst open. 5 ogres stood in the doorway, greed etched onto their faces, eager for their upcoming meal. Lu Shiyu's heart shot to her throat. The ogre pushed the iron door fully open. The strongest ogre gripped its stone club, its bulky frame filling the entire doorway. Yellow eyes swept the dim hut before locking onto Xiaolu. It grinned, revealing rows of rotten yellow fangs. Human, it is time to enter the soup. It stretched a thick arm forward to seize him, while 4 other ogres crowded behind it, craning their necks impatiently. Xiaolu stood motionless, the Wraithspawn crystal orb floating before his chest. He snapped his fingers. Snap. Detonate itch seed. The smallest ogre standing at the back froze abruptly. Its rough claws flew to its back, scratching uncontrollably. The more it scratched, the worse the itching grew. It tore strips of its own skin open. A shriek tore from its throat as it collapsed onto the ground, thrashing wildly. The maddening itch showed no sign of fading. Gah! The other ogres turned to stare in confusion. They suspected the creature was pretending to suffer, hoping to trick them into giving it extra portions of human flesh. Time to test the puppet's combat strength, Xiaolu thought, commanding the crystal orb. Activate Curse Puppet. Target failed will resistance check. Converted into puppet. All stats increased by 100. Itch Curse Effect. Attack speed plus 300. The small ogre's body swelled to multiple times its original size, muscles bulging powerfully. Every single stat surged rapidly. The powerful ogre failed to notice the transformation and snarled. Fool, get up. In the next instant, the thrashing ogre fell still. After several quiet seconds, it lunged straight at the large ogre. Ugh! The powerful ogre stumbled backward from the impact. It attempted to fling its attacker away, only to discover the smaller ogre now possessed far greater strength. The transformed ogre moved at blinding speed. Its arms flailed like coiled springs, tearing viciously. Before the large ogre could react, dozens of deep, bone-deep gashes were carved across its face, neck and torso. Its HP plummeted rapidly. Roar! The ambushed ogre howled, its HP bar draining completely as it died, eyes wide with disbelief. The entire fight lasted mere seconds. Your cursed puppet slain a common ogre LV.15. Experience gained, 18,000. The 4 remaining ogres finally realized what was happening. Traitor! You are a traitor. We will kill you. They roared and swarmed the ogre puppet. A brutal melee erupted. The puppet felt no pain and knew no fear. It fought without bothering to block incoming blows. Meanwhile, the 4 ordinary ogres, despite their ferocious appearance, were cowards deep down. After sustaining several hits, they hesitated to fight head-on. Xiaolu brushed dust off his clothes and stepped out of the stone hut. He watched the brawl with keen interest. So the itch seed boosts attack speed. I suppose other varieties of curses grant entirely different bonuses. Moments later, golden beams of light erupted from the fallen ogre's corpse. An ogre clan divine artifact had appeared. Golden light surged upward from the ogre's corpse, revealing a circular necklace strung with 3 sharp fangs. Name: Tooth Fairies Collection. Type: Accessory, Necklace. Equipable level: LV.10. Allowed classes: no restrictions. Quality: Divine Artifact Prime. Stat bonuses: all attributes plus 100. Special effect: Tooth Fairies Bargain. Whenever the wearer deals damage exceeding 25 of an enemy's maximum HP in a single strike, there is a 20 chance to trigger the Tooth Fairy's gift. The target drops 1 golden tooth. Each golden tooth permanently grants the wearer plus 10 to all attributes. This bonus has no stacking cap. Special effect: Mouth full of golden teeth. When the number of golden teeth hanging on the necklace reaches a multiple of 10, additional tiered stat bonuses activate. 10 teeth. Extra all attributes plus 50. 50 teeth. Extra all attributes plus 200. 100 teeth. Extra all attributes plus 500. 200 teeth. Extra all attributes plus 1000. Each tier stacks independently and takes simultaneous effect. The real-time tooth count and cumulative bonuses are displayed on the necklace's stat panel. Special effect: Wrath of the Tooth Fairy. Activate voluntarily to detonate any number of golden teeth hung on the necklace. Each detonated tooth raises all attributes by 5 for 30 seconds. Durations stack freely. Detonated teeth vanish permanently, and their corresponding attribute bonuses are removed. Cooldown: 24 hours. Description: this necklace formed during the ancestral tooth sacrifice ritual of the ogre clan. Ogres believe every tooth swallowed holds the soul of the prey it belonged to. The tooth fairy forges those souls into golden teeth to hang upon the necklace, waiting for a new collector. 1 tooth, 1 life, 1 bargain, 1 source of power. Xiaolu scanned the stats of this divine artifact and formed his judgment. Even if he gathered 200 golden teeth, the total all-attribute boost would only reach 3,000 points. The numbers sounded impressive, yet collecting them demanded enormous time and effort. With such a low drop chance, he might need to slay more than 1,000 monsters to gather enough teeth if misfortune plagued him. By then, he would likely have obtained far stronger divine artifacts with superior stat bonuses. Moreover, this necklace offered nothing apart from attribute increases. Compared to the Heart of the Ocean, it fell drastically short. After all, the Heart of the Ocean could drag enemies into the deep sea and unleash power far beyond the wielder's own limits. Both were necklaces, and he could only equip one at a time. After brief consideration, he decided to avoid wasting its potential. He would wear Tooth Fairy's collection normally to accumulate stats, then switch to the Heart of the Ocean right before major battles. Thanks to his ruby ring, swapping equipment was effortless. At that moment, a pained howl echoed from the battlefield. One ogre was torn to shreds by the puppet, its bones ripped apart. Your cursed puppet slain a common ogre LV.18. Experience gained, 21,000. Within seconds, the remaining ogres could endure no longer and collapsed one after another, wailing. Your cursed puppet slain a common ogre LV.15. Experience gained, 18,000. Your cursed puppet slain a common ogre LV.16. Experience gained, 19,000. You have leveled up to LV.24. All attributes +5. Silence settled over the ruined ogre encampment. A large bulge protruded from the puppet's back. The respawn seed had fully erupted. Yet its assigned mission was complete. The maddening itch faded away. The puppet stood quiet and still. 3 more beams of golden light rose from the fallen foes. 2 of the relics were tooth fairy artifacts. They felt useless to keep, yet a shame to throw away. He could pass them to his young aunt later, letting her lead others to farm attribute points. The final artifact was a stone club, far inferior to the goblin variant. He tossed it straight into his ruby space, reserved for his aunt. Meanwhile, Lu Yutao was still trapped on the second stage, locked in a battle of wits against the goblins. He hung suspended inside a thick hemp net sack. Stones the size of fists hurtled toward him from every direction. A flying rock split his temple. Blood trickled down his brow bone, blurring half his vision. "Break for me," he roared, rubbing his palms together to unleash a beam of flame. It continuously scorched the resin-coated hemp ropes. Thick black smoke billowed, stinging his eyes and nose until tears and mucus streamed down his face. The hemp cords frayed apart amid the flames. He tilted his head back and chugged a healing potion. Victory was nearly within reach. I will claim first place in this new recruit assessment. Most candidates should still be struggling on the first stage right now. But I'm about to clear the second stage. At this moment, Lu Yutao brimmed with unshakable confidence. Xia Lu cleared the 6th stage. Good heavens, does that mean he's going to finish the professional assessment entirely? On the observation platform, senior officials from Linhai City stared in shock at the feed showing Xia Lu. On nearly every other screen, examinees fought desperately against horned beasts on the first stage, trapped in disarray. Xia Lu, however, had already defeated the ogre of the 6th stage. How long has it taken him to get from stage 1 to 6? 5 minutes. How on earth did he manage that? It looked as if he remotely seized control of the ogres, driving them into a far more furious rage and turning them against one another until every last one perished. He has no class, so where did that skill come from? No one knows. It might be an equipment ability. Any gear capable of such power has to rank far higher than grade A. Could there be a powerful, influential clan backing him? Just then, a voice cut through the chatter. Silence. The room fell quiet at once. All heads turned toward the source. Mayor Lin Zhenghong frowned, staring down at his wrist. A military communication band glowed glaring crimson. It signaled a top priority emergency transmission. A heavy tension descended over everyone present. Something terrible had happened. Lin Zhenghong swept his gaze over the assembly before stepping into a corner to take the call. The conversation lasted less than 20 seconds. When he ended the transmission and walked back, his expression was grave. All officials watched him anxiously, waiting for news. Disaster has struck on the boundless battlefront. Lin Zhenghong retook his seat, his face dark. A chill ran through every official. In recent years, the front lines of Great Xia's boundless battlefront had grown increasingly precarious, with continuous reports of defeats. If the front fell, foreign races would pour into Great Xia to wage slaughter. As panic rippled through the group, Lin Zhenghong spoke slowly. Iron Bulwark Fortress, Great Xia's 3rd stronghold on the boundless battlefront. 2 hours ago, it was completely overrun by the giant folk. The words crashed over the officials like a bucket of ice water. They could feel the tide turning against them. Iron Bulwark Fortress. Minister Zhao Hengyuan shot abruptly to his feet. It is a core stronghold Great Xia has maintained for 40 years on the boundless battlefront. It garrisons over 10,000 professionals, with hundreds ranked grade A and above. How could this happen? Out of 10,000 defenders, fewer than 200 made it out alive. Lin Zhenghong's voice trembled faintly. The giant folk launched an overwhelming assault and shattered the fortress's defensive barrier. Our strongholds on the boundless battlefront are surrounded by enemies on all sides. Defending them is brutal. Great Xia now holds only 2 remaining bastions, Eternal Night City and Ash Barrier. If these 2 fall, alien legions will tear open the planar barrier and invade Great Xia's homeland. It will no longer just be professionals fighting on the boundless battlefront. The higher authorities have issued a nationwide mobilization order. Every region must send professionals to reinforce and hold Eternal Night City and Ash Barrier. Linhai City is no exception. He finished speaking and looked around at the senior officials. They were all shrewd people. When they met his gaze, they quickly looked away. Not a single person volunteered to go. Life in Linhai City was akin to paradise, while the boundless battlefront was pure hell, where everyone lived in constant dread. Lin Zhenghong's gaze drifted onward, finally settling on a young, beautiful face. Lu Shiyu. Step forward. Lu Shiyu froze. She glanced left and right in confusion. With so many high-ranking officials present, the duty should never fall to her. Sending a Grade D warrior to lead reinforcements to the boundless battlefront? It was absurd. Mayor Lin, Lu Shiyu said steadily. From what I know, the situation on the boundless battlefront stands at a critical turning point. Standard protocol dictates sending the strongest, highest-ranked professionals with extensive combat experience to lead support missions. I do not even rank within the top 100 combatants in Linhai City. By any measure, I am not the right choice. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone shared the same unspoken thought. If not her, then who among us? Yet no one dared voice it aloud. Lin Zhenghong stared at her impassively. You speak the truth. In terms of rank and seniority, you are far from the first candidate. But survival on the boundless battlefront depends on more than combat rank. He waved to his secretary, who promptly handed over a document. You achieved the highest overall score citywide in the professional assessment. You defeated 3 Grade A professionals, racking up 12 consecutive victories. We have rated you Grade S, the only recipient in Linhai City in 5 years. And then there was the Black Tiger Guild case. A shadowy guild operating covertly in Linhai City for 7 years, with extensive influence that left us at a loss. You led the operation to wipe out Black Tiger Guild entirely, eliminating a major threat to the city. Even as only a Grade D warrior, I hold high hopes for you. Lu Shiyu lowered her head, her features shrouded in shadow. After a moment of thought, she lifted her gaze. I will go, on one condition. I want to sever all ties with Linhai City's professional administration. I will bear full responsibility for all my deeds, and I will have no further connection to Linhai City or any of you from this point onward. Lin Zhenghong looked at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Very well, that can be arranged. Privately, he thought, hardly anyone who heads to the boundless battlefront ever returns. As for military merit, what achievements could a mere Grade D warrior possibly accomplish? The final stage of the assessment. Once again, the world spun violently. Xia Lu had grown accustomed to the sensation, and anticipation stirred within him. Would there be a powerful boss waiting on the final stage? Perhaps it would drop a divine artifact for him. Wait, no requirement to kill? I'm sticking around to investigate. The dizziness gradually faded, and solid surroundings came into focus. Xia Li's first realization, he was kneeling. Undoubtedly another escape-type stage. Fortunately, his hands and feet remained unrestrained. He slowly opened his eyes. Before him stretched obsidian ground, smooth as a mirror, reflecting the ornate crystal chandeliers hanging overhead. The air carried a cloying scent, reminiscent of overly sweet roses. He sensed movement ahead and lifted his head. A towering stained glass window poured bright moonlight into the hall, casting the pattern of a giant blood red rose across the floor. Within that pattern stood a tall, graceful figure. Her skin was pale white, 2 sharp fangs protruding from her lips. Scarlet eyes glinted with captivating allure. She wore a deep black velvet gown with a high-side slit revealing a long, pale leg. Diamond-studded high heels glinted as she shifted her weight. Her cheekbones were sharp and defined. Dark red curls cascaded over her shoulders. She glanced toward Xia Lu and swirled a tall crystal goblet. A liquid resembling blood rippled inside. She tilted her head back, revealing a slender pale neck, and drained the goblet in one gulp. A streak of crimson trailed down her jaw, blending haunting beauty with a hint of ferocity. Name, Vampire Countess Lilith. Level, LV.30 suppressed. HP, 1,800,000. MP, 1 million. Race, Kindred. Title, Scarlet Dancer Singer of Eternal Night. Bloodline traits, Blood Moon Physique, Blood Memory, Pure Blood Kindred. Skills, Scarlet Assault, Descending Blood Wings, Blood Nova, Mesmerizing Gaze, Veil of Eternal Night. Description, Lilith hails from the Nosferatu clan, one of the 13 oldest kindred clans that value pure blood above all else. As the 13th heir to the clan, she rules Blood Moon Manor, an independent plane shrouded in perpetual moonlight. She was once the most brilliant prodigy of her clan, ascending to countess before turning 200, earning the title Scarlet Dancer. Huh. Xiaolu stared at her status panel, his body trembling faintly. It was not fear, excitement surged through him. Vampires were legendary beings, dangerous, intelligent, and endlessly fascinating, nearly humanity perfected. This one was a boss, and her power was already suppressed. He dared not imagine what divine artifact she might drop. It would surely surpass every relic he currently owned. Perhaps it would grant him overwhelming power instantly. Shoo! Lilith noticed Xia Li's trembling and assumed he was terrified. She smiled charmingly, pressing one index finger to her lips. Her breathtaking beauty captured all attention. But Xiaolu read the unspoken message clearly. Be patient. Once I finish this one, you are next. Several other young men knelt beside him. They stared fixedly at Lilith, longing plain on their faces. They were completely entranced, ready to be manipulated at her will. You come here. Lilith smiled and crooked a finger. One young man beside Xiaolu rose as if bewitched and walked slowly toward her, shaking uncontrollably, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Thank you for choosing me. Lilith extended her pale hand. Her long crimson nail dragged across his cheek, slicing the skin open like a blade, before sliding to the side of his neck, right over his main artery. Blood gushed forth like water from a tap, splattering across Lilith's velvet gown. She leaned forward, closing her eyes, and drank greedily. The young man convulsed violently. His body visibly shriveled away. His lips moved, and two words escaped. Thank you. Xiaolu felt a strange stir within him. In his past life, Chuanbao had always favored people like this. Lilith appeared ravenously hungry. She maintained an air of elegance at first, but after only a few seconds, her restraint frayed. She leaned forward, opening her mouth to catch the streaming blood, a look of deep satisfaction on her face. Continuous notification prompts floated above her head. Vampire Countess Lilith, all attributes +1. Vampire Countess Lilith, all attributes +1. Vampire Countess Lilith, all attributes +1. The notifications pulsed steadily, like a metronome. Her skin grew smoother and paler before his eyes. Suddenly, a low rumble emanated from within her, as if something had broken free. Warning, Lilith has partially broken her seal. LV.30 LV.31. All attributes drastically increased. As the message appeared, the young man shriveled completely into a mummy, his eyes and mouth stretched wide open. Lilith tossed the desiccated corpse aside. Servants stepped forward to drag it away at once. She licked the remaining blood from her lips, savoring the taste. Ah, delicious. As expected, young humans taste far sweeter, especially professionals blessed with unique power. Her scarlet gaze locked on Xiaolu. It was the gaze of someone eyeing a meal, and Xiaolu was her main course. Xiaolu finally understood. Every person kneeling on this floor was simply a meal for her. She had quite the appetite. The remaining young men grew eager watching Lilith finish her feast. They scrambled forward on hands and knees, speaking in fervent tones. Take me. Please, consume me. Honorable Lady Lilith, let me become a part of you. I admire you. I love you. I would give everything for you. Xiaolu shot them a glance, silently complaining to himself. Good grief. All of them hopeless devotees. But this charade would end now. He planned to strike. Following his usual habit, he first surveyed his surroundings. He turned and scanned the hall. 7 or 8 meters behind him stood 2 magnificent doors, not fully closed, parted by a 30-centimeter gap. A swirling sphere of light glimmered through the crack. If he was not mistaken, that was the exit teleportation array. The designers of the assessment had laid out the path clearly. Escape through the doors, and the stage was cleared. A familiar setup. Xiaolu, however, had no intention of running. He aimed to claim the divine artifact. Against humanoid bosses, his golden spike club remained his best weapon. Infinite stun was a nightmare for any boss. Yet there was a complication. Vampire Countess Lilith's stats clearly favored speed, and she could take flight. Striking her in the back of the head with the club would prove extremely difficult. He could pretend to approach her, then launch a surprise attack. It was time to show her humanity's strength. At the same time, Lilith tilted her head and crooked her finger once more. Very well, the second offering. Another young man trembled all over. Tears spilled down his cheeks as he repeatedly murmured his thanks. Dropping to his knees before Lilith, trembling as he awaited his turn. Wait a moment. A voice suddenly cut through the hall. Lilith frowned with mild irritation and turned to look. Xiaolu had stood upright, casually brushing dust off his trousers. Kneel, Lilith commanded softly. Xiaolu met her gaze and spoke. Eat me first. I'm in a hurry. Time counted toward his final assessment score, after all. Lilith studied the human before her, her scarlet eyes narrowing. You are the last. You will be eaten last. She pointed a finger toward him. Kneel back down now. Her tone was domineering, leaving no room for negotiation. No one stopped to chat with their food before eating. But what if another predator arrived? The orb of wrath floated up before him. Black smoke churned inside its glass surface, shifting form as he channeled his will. Resolving into a clear vision, the ogre puppet feasting on another ogre, devouring its prey ravenously. Puppet summon. Whoosh. Black smoke surged out of the orb of wrath, coalescing in midair into a massive foggy figure over 2 meters tall. Lilith looked upward, her expression turning hostile. Roar! With a thunderous bellow, the ogre puppet landed. Its filthy form seemed to stain the entire great hall. Lilith gritted her teeth, veins throbbing faintly on her forehead. She tossed the young man in her grasp aside, unfurling bat-like wings from her back as she charged toward the ogre puppet. Get out of my sight! Get out of my sight! Lilith burned with unbridled fury. This was her most important feeding time. She had barely finished one human when this repulsive creature interrupted her. Whoosh! Bat wings unfurled behind her, spanning over 4 meters. Small bony barbs lined the edges, glinting coldly under the moonlight. Her body blurred into a streak accompanied by a high-pitched bat's shriek. In the blink of an eye, she covered more than 10 meters, landing directly before the ogre puppet. The puppet had barely steadied itself and not yet taken in its surroundings when searing pain exploded in its chest. Lilith's scarlet claws tore several deep, bone-deep gashes across its torso. Putrid dark red blood splashed onto the obsidian floor, hissing as it corroded the stone. The ogre puppet staggered backward under the tremendous impact. Lilith also retreated a short distance, wrinkling her nose in disgust at the stench of the tainted blood. The odor alone threatened to make her retch. Ogre puppet suffers scarlet assault, sweeping claw strike. HP lost, 87,604. Ogre puppet gains 2 stacks of blood mark. Meanwhile, the puppet's overwhelming foul stench spread rapidly through the chamber. The sweet, alluring rose fragrance grew tainted, curdling into a sour, rotten odor. The young men still kneeling on the floor shuddered one after another. They covered their noses and mouths, the spellbound longing fading from their eyes, replaced by fear and confusion. The sight of blood and mangled flesh churned their stomachs, threatening to make them vomit. What is happening? Where am I? Who am I? Oh no, why is there so much blood on the ground? That man was drained of blood. A vampire. This is a vampire manor. Good heavens. Run, we have to run. I refuse to end up drained dry. Mother, help me. Panicked screams echoed out as they scrambled toward the door on hands and knees, terrified of being dragged back at any second. Come back here, all of you. Lilith hovered mid-air, watching the human men scramble to flee. Worry flickered across her features. These were the prey she had gathered with so much effort. Could they not wait until she finished before causing trouble? She adjusted her tone, wrapping her voice in beguiling charm once more. Smiling gently, she called out to the young men. My dears, did you not claim to love me? You once swore you would devote everything to me, even your lives. All I ask is that you return. Is that truly too difficult? Come to me quickly. I am waiting here for you. I love you, more deeply than ever before. Ugh, cowards, running without hesitation. I am furious. Lilith's chest heaved with rage. Scarlet eyes blazed with overwhelming fury. It was all that Awakened one's fault. She would devour him, crunch his bones, and swallow them whole. She spun abruptly, searching for the detestable human. At that moment, ripples of golden light unfurled in the air behind her. A golden spiked staff emerged slowly from within. Then came Xia Li's handsome face. Only his upper body peeked out as he quietly raised the staff. He waited for the perfect opening and struck downward with all his strength. Woo, the staff sliced through the air. Thud, a dull impact echoed. Xia Li frowned, no trace of joy on his face. The strike felt wrong. Sure enough, things unfolded exactly as he feared. Lilith showed no sign of being stunned. Before the golden spiked staff could connect with the back of her head, her skull burst apart. It dissolved into hundreds of crimson-black bats, screeching as they surged forth. Like a swarm of insects, they rushed straight toward him. Without hesitation, Xia Lu retreated into the deep dive space. The golden ripples in the air continued to waver as they began to close. In the next instant, Lilith materialized amid the swarm of bats. Her pale hand, tipped with long scarlet claws, pierced the spot where he had stood moments earlier. If he had remained there, he would have suffered a fatal blow. Lilith landed on the obsidian floor, her high heels striking a crisp note against the stone. Confusion flickered within her vertical scarlet pupils. What was different about this human awakened one? How could he traverse space at will? This power lay far beyond the reach of her vampire kin. She eyed every corner vigilantly and spoke in a low voice. Show yourself. I believe we should talk. We are both beings of high standing. We ought to don formal attire, sip red wine with grace, and settle any disputes calmly. I can grant anything you desire. I am included among those offerings. Lilith's voice grew increasingly entrancing, thick with allure. It sounded as though all he needed to do was agree, and he would receive everything he wished for. As if I could trust you. Xiaolu lingered within the deep dive space, thick seawater separating him from the outside world. He could see distorted images of Lilith and the entire hall above. This place was a safe haven where he could regroup. This Lilith can transform her body into vampire bats. That means the golden spike staff will never work on her. I will never land a blow to the back of her head. She also possesses extraordinary speed. A head-on fight will come down to reflexes and the strangeness of our abilities. Fortunately, I have no shortage of unpredictable skills. Xiaolu pressed one palm against the cursed crystal sphere, his fingertips sinking into churning black mist. The ogre golem collapsed on the ground, yet its eyes flew open abruptly. Within its murky yellow irises, the seed of malice throbbed wildly. It pushed itself upright from the pile of rubble and let out a thunderous roar. Lilith turned her head, impatience burning in her scarlet eyes. You still live. Her answer came in the form of a stone club sweeping toward her. The ogre golem wielded the club with wide, unrefined swings. Lilith tapped her toes against the ground, her bat wings fluttering slightly. Her figure twisted nimbly to evade each blow. Suddenly, a shrill metallic screech cut through the air. A massive blood-red scythe materialized in her grasp. Its blade curved like a crescent moon, edged with silver metal that radiated frigid cold. Lilith held the giant weapon in one hand. Its length exceeded her own height. She stared coldly down at the ogre golem. This farce ends now. She dove downward, raising the scarlet scythe high. The ogre golem felt no fear, charging forward and swinging its stone club once more. Unfortunately, its movements appeared as slow motion to Lilith. She slipped past the club, pushing lightly off the ground with her toes. The scarlet scythe twirled and spun in her hands, unleashing a storm of cutting strikes. From afar, it resembled a magnificent, deadly dance. Ugh! The ogre golem staggered backward with a pained howl. Its body fragmented like stacked blocks and crumpled to the ground. Felt. Disgusting creature. The feast I prepared with such care has been ruined by this brute. The scarlet scythe folded with a clear clang. Lilith landed lightly on the obsidian tiles in her heels. Behind her, the ogre golem's enormous frame continued to break apart. She snapped her fingers, and 6 servants emerged from either side of the hall. They quickly cleared away the golem's crumbling remains. One of them hastily sprayed air freshener across the area. Lilith drew a deep breath, and her frown eased at last. She walked beneath the stained glass window as moonlight washed over her form. Once the servants withdrew, Lilith surveyed the hall. A smile returned to her lips, her tone soft and captivating once again. Now then, dear one, the hall is clean once more. Come out. Your actions have been reckless, yet I give you my word. I will not harm you, for I hold such fondness for you. She stepped slowly toward the center of the banquet hall on her heels. Her vertical scarlet eyes swept slowly across every shadowed corner. All at once, she spun sharply. Xiaolu emerged from the shadows with a grin, gazing at her from a distance. The azure sea dagger twirled smoothly between his fingertips. He had tested nearly all the trump cards of this vampire countess with the ogre golem. Now, it was time to spring his trap. All the others have fled. Your fondness arrives rather late, does it not? Xiaolu smiled casually as he spoke. Lilith's exquisite face darkened. She hated that smile. It made her feel as though she had lost all control. No, it seemed he was the one holding command of this situation. Crack the scarlet scythe unfurled, its blade stretching 3 meters long, resembling a crimson moon hanging in the air. Lilith smiled once again. I only toyed with the rest, but what I feel for you is genuine. Step closer. I will grant anything you seek. She crooked a finger toward Xiaolu as she finished speaking. Oh, then allow me to send you soaring, Xiaolu said with a laugh. He pushed off the ground with his toes, turning into a blurred streak as he charged forward. Powerful winds swirled around him. So fast, Lilith's expression hardened for battle in an instant. There was no time to unfurl her blood wings. She tightened her grip on the scythe's handle. The 3-meter scarlet blade swept an arc before her. Xiaolu leaned aside, and the edge grazed his chest armor. Sparks of static erupted across the azure-tide armor. A damage value of 78,249 floated above Xia Li's head. He closed the distance to Lilith immediately. The Azure Sea dagger twisted in his grip, stabbing straight toward her ribs. Lilith twisted the side's hilt to block. Sparks exploded where blade met handle. Razor Wind activated, speed stack +1. Dear one, you would fare better to simply surrender with such skill. I will make this far less painful for you. Lilith had gained the upper hand in their first exchange. She looked down at Xia Lu, who stood within arm's reach, and chuckled. I am truly grateful for your mercy. Xia Lu twisted his body, driving the Azure Sea dagger toward her face. The scythe blade glowed scarlet as if alive, intercepting the strike once more. Razor Wind activated, speed stack +1. They clashed at close quarters, weapons colliding repeatedly. Both pushed their speed to the limit, leaving streaking afterimages throughout the hall. Razor Wind activated, speed stack +1. Razor Wind activated, speed stack +1. Soon, Lilith began to feel overwhelmed. A cold glint surged toward her, sending a chill racing down her spine. This time, she knew she could not block. She wrenched her head aside just in time. The blade sliced past her ear, severing several strands of crimson hair. She unfurled her blood wings to create distance. Yet her feet had not left the floor when Xia Li's second blade thrust upward beneath her arm. She twisted her torso awkwardly. The tip scraped along her ribs, tearing a gash in her evening gown. The third strike followed instantly, sinking into her abdomen. Ka! A trail of blood spilled from Lilith's lips. Unlike before, this blood belonged to her. 173,289. Xia Lu felt soft flesh beneath the blade and knew his strike landed true. He pressed his palm against the hilt, driving the dagger deeper. Lilith arched her back, clutching her wound. Stunned disbelief shone in her eyes as she stared at the human before her. Dear one, deep-sea toxins spread through her body, numbing her abdomen more and more. Lilith dropped to her knees with a heavy thud. Her movements grew steadily sluggish. Xia Lu ripped the Azure Sea dagger free. The pain forced Lilith to topple backward. He swept the dagger upward from below, aiming straight for her throat. The strike moved at blistering speed. Lilith's pupils shrank to pinpricks. She could truly die here. She had no choice but to use that ability. Poof! Lilith's body dissolved abruptly into dozens of palm-sized vampire bats. The swarm attempted to flee. A grin spread across Xia Li's face. I've been waiting for this. Ocean Heart. Deep-sea prison. The gem pendant resting against his chest burst with blinding blue light. Seawater churned and roared within it. It erupted outward as dozens of serpentine currents. They twisted around one another in spiraling coils. The dozens of vampire bats were trapped amid the swirling seawater, screeching and struggling. These cave-dwelling creatures had never encountered the open ocean, let alone the power to resist it. Any bat that charged into the currents was swept away in an instant. Shape-shifting into bats to escape worked flawlessly on land. Against ocean-based abilities, it was a fatal disadvantage. Gradually, the spiral currents constricted, sealing the bats completely within. No, Lilith reformed amid the swarm. Her usual poise vanished, replaced by stark terror as she stared at Xia Lu. Dear one, what are you doing? Do you not care for me? Xia Lu smiled faintly. I told you I would send you soaring. Flying through the depths of the sea still counts as flight. Deep-sea prison, contract. Torrents of seawater swallowed Lilith whole. Then, deep-sea domain unfolded. Lilith exhaled bubbles, thrashing as she tried to swim upward. Yet the currents dragged her ever deeper. In the next instant, she vanished from the hall entirely, transported to the true abyssal depths. Xia Lu could control this patch of ocean directly through the ocean heart. Finally, abyssal banishment. The deep-sea prison linked to the endless ocean. Once dragged down, Lilith would never escape. Gurgle gurgle. Lilith expelled the last breath from her lungs. Consciousness slipped away as she floated within the deep-sea prison. Her health dropped at a terrifying rate. 243,904, 254,238, 284,327. After mere seconds, the kill notification echoed. You have slain Vampire Countess Lilith LV.31 using Abyssal Banishment. The Abyss may preserve one soul 0/1. Would you like to imprison Vampire Countess Lilith permanently within the deep-sea prison? The abyssal currents pressed in from all directions, creaking against every bone in Lilith's body. Her consciousness blurred. Her health was nearly depleted. What terrified her most was the invisible force pulling her downward. The ocean depths refused to let her depart. You have slain Vampire Countess Lilith LV.31 using Abyssal Banishment. The Abyss may preserve one soul 0/1. Would you like to imprison vampire Countess Lilith permanently within the deep-sea prison? A soul can be preserved? What purpose does this serve? Could I summon Lilith repeatedly to farm legendary artifacts? Xiaolu rested his chin in his hand, deep in thought. He would need to research this ability later. Vampires were a legendary race. The artifacts they possessed would surely be far stronger than any he had encountered so far. If he could obtain all vampire artifacts through Lilith, that would be extraordinary. Furthermore, as a vampire countess, her soul was immensely rare. Preserving her would undoubtedly be worthwhile. Yes. Once Xiaolu made his choice, Lilith's graceful figure reappeared in the abyssal waters. Confined and protected inside the deep-sea prison. He still did not fully understand the function of this power. But Lilith snapped awake immediately. Panic surged through her as she struggled violently. She clutched at her throat as though drowning. Soon, however, she realized she could breathe underwater. How do you find the depths? Xiaoli's will echoed directly inside Lilith's mind. Are you comfortable down here? It is you, human. Please, release me at once, dear one. I am frightened. I am a creature of caves. I have never beheld the open ocean. Lilith trembled, adopting a pleading tone, her hands clasped together. If solid ground lay beneath her feet, she would have knelt and begged relentlessly. You are already dead. There is no need to keep up this pretense. Xiaolu shook his head as he watched her. What? Lilith froze, overcome with shock. She shook her head frantically, refusing to accept the truth. Impossible, this cannot be. I am the 13th heir of the noble Nosferatu clan, bearer of pure blood, ruler of the Blood Moon Manor. I cannot perish. You must be deceiving me. I will not fall for your lies. Lilith roared wildly, all trace of elegance vanishing from her demeanor. Unfortunately, only boundless dark water answered her cries. The heavy, mysterious pressure of the ocean eroded her confidence by the second. Meanwhile, a glowing crimson gold beam shot out from the deep-sea prison. The light emanating from a vampire boss's legendary artifact was unlike any other. Beneath Xia Li's eager gaze, the crimson gold radiance faded, revealing a cloak suspended in mid-air. Its hem rippled without wind, resembling a frozen sea of dark red blood. A nail-sized crimson gem rested at the collar, holding a single drop of eternally fresh blood trapped within. Delicate silver thread wove twisted ancient vampire script across the cloak's inner lining. The markings flickered under faint light, looking like countless crawling blood vessels. Name, Scarlet Ending. Type, Armor Cloak. Equip level, LV.25. Available classes, Vampires. Quality, Legendary Prime. Attribute bonuses, Agility plus 1,500, Stamina plus 1,000. All movement speed plus 40. Special effect, Bloodbat Translocation. The wearer may teleport to any position within line of sight. Upon teleportation, the body breaks apart into 3 crimson bats. They reform at the target location. Maximum teleport distance, 50 meters. Cooldown, 20 seconds. If enemies lie along the path of movement, the 3 bats will automatically assail targets, dealing physical damage equal to 300 of the wearer's agility and applying 30 lifesteal. No penalties occur if 1 bat perishes. If all 3 bats are destroyed, the wearer suffers a 10 self-inflicted damage backlash. Special effect, Scarlet Phantom. Grants the wearer the ability Perfect Evasion. Each time Perfect Evasion triggers, a Scarlet Phantom remains at the original position for 8 seconds. The Phantom mimics the wearer's basic attack animations, possesses tangible form. It inherits 30 of the wearer's attack power to automatically strike the nearest enemy. Additionally, the wearer gains 1 stack of Blood Moon Dance. Each stack raises evasion rate by 10 and attack speed by 25. Stacks up to 10 times and lasts 10 seconds. When evasion rate reaches 100, the wearer becomes immune to all physical damage. Special effect, Ending of the Bloodkin. Active ability. Activate to awaken all ancient vampire script stitched within the cloak. For 30 minutes, strength, agility, stamina, and maximum health are doubled. And all stacks of Scarlet Phantom are locked at maximum. For the duration, every successful evasion summons a swarm of ending bats to strike all enemies within 15 meters, dealing area damage equal to 200 of the wearer's agility. Cooldown, 24 hours. Description. Forged by the vampire progenitor, this cloak changed hands repeatedly during the civil wars of the 13 vampire clans. It was finally sealed within the cellars of Blood Moon Manor by the Nosferatu clan and erased from vampire records to halt further clan conflict. It has witnessed countless betrayals and vendettas among vampires. Those who don it claim to hear whispers of countless lost spirits echoing at midnight. Xiaolu stared at the stat panel of Scarlet Ending. A look of astonishment crossed his face. Among all legendary artifacts he had seen so far, this cloak was undoubtedly the most powerful. One might even call it overpowered. Immunity to physical attacks once evasion hits 100%. What did that mean? If brought to the endless battlefield, he could potentially challenge entire alien factions alone. Suddenly, Lilith let out a shrill scream. Scarlet Ending. That is our clan's sacred artifact. How could this be in your hands? My father clearly said this cloak was sealed forever behind the 13th door of the vampire temple. Only the heir of the progenitor's bloodline could retrieve it during their coming-of-age ceremony. Who exactly are you? How did you get hold of it? What creature are you? Xiala looked at her. Her exquisite face was now twisted with shock and terror, bearing a hint of ferocity. Xiala chuckled. What expression would she wear if he hunted down all the vampire artifacts through her later on? Still, he had urgent business to attend to. The professional examination was still being timed. He pulled his consciousness out of the deep-sea prison and returned to reality. The luxurious chamber lay in complete disarray, water strewn across the floor. The vampire servants had vanished without a trace. Too lazy to search for them, Xiaolu pushed open the door and stepped into the teleportation array. The familiar swirling dizziness washed over him, and a notification echoed in his ears. Congratulations. You have cleared the 7th stage of the examination. Returning to reality now. Meanwhile, Lu Yutao was still trapped in the 2nd stage. Streaks of flame erupted from his palms, finally burning through the net trap. After exhausting immense effort and chugging more than a dozen healing potions, he eliminated every single goblin. Phew, I finally passed the 2nd stage. Staring at the litter of goblin corpses, a grin spread across his face. This is utterly brutal. I bet everyone else surrendered inside that net trap. Thank goodness I'm a pyromancer, or I would have been trapped to death too. The top spot in this examination should be mine for sure. He sighed in relief, then strode toward the teleportation array leading to the 3rd stage. When he saw the burning racks beneath his feet and the restraints binding his hands and feet, he immediately chose to withdraw. Damn, this is impossible to beat. If I can't get through it, no one else can either. The world spun, and he found himself back on the school plaza. He hastily checked the rankings, and his smile froze instantly. First place, Xiaolu. Perfect clear of all 7 stages. Time used, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. On the observation platform, Mayor Lin Zhenghong and other senior officials of Linhai City watched Lu Xiu's figure board the private jet. They watched as she disappeared. The secretary leaned forward and whispered beside his ear. Mayor, Lu Xiu's assignment might stir up trouble. She ranked 1st in the internal assessment. She holds Class A authority, and her nephew seems to possess remarkable strength as well. Stir up trouble? Lin Zhenghong let out a cold laugh. Her nephew Xia Lu failed his job awakening. He doesn't have a proper class at all. No matter how high his level or how fine his equipment, his ceiling is permanently locked. What waves could he possibly make? Linhai City remains under my control in the end. The secretary wished to say more, but Lin Zhenghong waved a hand, dismissing her. At that moment, a system notification popped up on the giant screen at the center of the observation stand. It drew every pair of eyes. Candidate Xia Lu has cleared Stage 7. Total elapsed time, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Examination result, perfect clear. Lin Zhenghong's smile froze on his face. The city officials broke into murmurs. A perfect clear? Stage 7. The military mentioned when designing the exam that Stage 7 was reserved for genuine monsters. Over the past decade across the Great Xia Kingdom, fewer than 5 candidates have ever reached Stage 7, yet he cleared it outright. If I recall correctly, Stage 7 takes place at Blood Moon Manor. After repeated conflicts between the Great Xia military and the vampires, they imprisoned Countess Lilith within the examination dungeon. Wait, a perfect clear means Countess Lilith is dead? If the vampires learn of this, war between the two sides could ignite once more. Over at the examination plaza, blue light after blue light flickered on the teleportation arrays. Eliminated candidates stumbled out from the glow, many battered and terrified. What the hell kind of exam dungeon is this? Who could possibly get through it? Before I even landed, the horned beasts charged straight at me, leaving no time to react. Even if you could react, what good would it do? Each horned beast stretches 7 to 8 meters long. No one can outrun them on foot. Only professions with movement skills stand a fighting chance. Otherwise, you're doomed. I'm so frustrated. I have all these skills, yet I never got a chance to use a single one. I'm dying to see what's in the 2nd stage. The 2nd stage is filled with goblins, supposedly. Even worse than the 1st. Can you believe they trap you in a net right at the start, leaving you open to being stabbed? Goblins and nets. Just hearing it makes me wince. Wait, look. Someone cleared all 7 stages. It's Xiaolo. The crowd buzzed with discussion, shaking their heads over the brutal examination. They had grinded levels relentlessly these past few days, only to face such merciless trials. Some calculated that a minimum of LV.18 health was required to survive the first assault from the horned beasts. They dared not even imagine the difficulty of the subsequent stages. Suddenly, the teleportation array lit up again. When the light faded, Xiaolo stepped out. He wore the accessory obscurity, masking all his divine artifacts. Apart from his handsome features and tall frame, he appeared utterly ordinary. The plaza fell silent. Every spectator stared at him with wide eyes. That's Xiaolo, the one who failed his job awakening. Wow, he barely has a scratch on him. Is this real? He looks completely at ease. Have you seen his completion time? Just over 2 minutes. The only explanation is that he bulldozed through every obstacle along the way. I need to think carefully. I never crossed him. I even lent him money once. Sun Hao lingered on the fringe of the crowd, his face dark. He had failed to pass even the first stage. He was sent flying by a horned beast. He glared fixedly at Xiaolu, consumed by resentment and unwillingness. How could someone who failed job awakening, a nobody, stand above him? He was an S-rank blazing sunsword master. Envy, jealousy, and hatred twisted his features. Elsewhere, Lu Yutao stood surrounded by onlookers. His mage robes were tattered, and blood continued to trickle from a gash on his forehead. Still, he was the powerhouse who had conquered the second stage, earning envious gazes from his classmates. Just catching a glimpse of the third stage was already an achievement. Then Xiaolu appeared, and Lu Yutao's proud smile faltered. His classmates swarmed toward Xiaolu at once. Brother Lu, congratulations. You're the first to clear the exam. Brother Lu, when you rise to greater heights, don't forget your old friends. He's a monster, an absolute monster. Xiaolu offered a polite smile to the crowd closing in around him. His gaze swept across the square, searching for a familiar figure. With first place in the exam and his aunt's current standing, they would form an unbeatable alliance. Yet he scanned the whole area and found no trace of her. The principal hurried over with a beaming smile. Xiaolu, congratulations on your perfect clear, completed in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. This result ranks among the finest across the entire Great Xia Kingdom. You've brought great honor to Linhai No. 1 High School. Xiaolu nodded faintly at the principal. He did not think highly of the man and had little desire to converse. The principal's expression stiffened, forcing an awkward smile. Mayor Lin Zhenghong approached next, flanked by senior officials, wearing a polished smile. Xiaolu, congratulations on claiming first place in this examination. Linhai City is honored to nurture such a prodigy as you. He paused and gestured for his secretary to hand over a document. I offer you an official position directly under my authority, complete with institutional staffing, comprehensive benefits, and a monthly salary starting at 100,000. You may select one set of Class A equipment from the Linhai City Armory. You will receive priority access to dungeons, with specialists crafting a personalized leveling plan for you. Additionally, you can pick any single item from the municipal item vault. These terms amount to S-tier treatment. Whether you wish to pursue advanced academy studies or venture into the endless battlefield, Linhai City will offer you full support. Even Lu Yutao, who passed the second stage and performed well, only qualifies for B-tier treatment, far below your standing. His words ignited an uproar among the onlookers. S-tier treatment. That's incredible. A direct ticket to the top. No binding contracts either. It's practically a free gift. Why hasn't Brother Lu agreed yet? If it were me, I'd sign the document instantly. You'd never need to struggle for resources even if you stopped leveling later on. Other municipal officials joined in, showering him with praise. This young man was destined for greatness. Xiaolu listened quietly, then nodded politely. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, all leaders. I intend to stay with my aunt. Where she goes, I go. Lin Jinghong's smile faded a little at those words. One of the officials stepped forward. Young man, do you understand what S-tier treatment means? Mayor Lin is your aunt's superior. Even she answers to him. Be flexible. Don't be so stubborn. Xiaolu frowned at the group of officials, growing increasingly suspicious. He glanced around and spoke in a low voice. Where's my aunt? The officials exchanged uneasy glances, as if hiding something. Lin Zhenghong smiled and stepped forward. Lu Xiyu has departed for an urgent mission. The front lines of the endless battlefield are under siege. After the giant tribe breached Ironwall Fortress, only Eternal Night City and Ash Barrier remain as Great Xia strongholds. Mobilization orders have been issued. Every region must send their most capable combatants to reinforce the front. Your aunt ranked first in the internal assessment and resolved the Black Tiger Guild incident. She is a rising star of Linhai City. This mission is the perfect fit for her. Rest assured, she will gain further advancement upon her return. You sent my aunt to the endless battlefield? Xia Li's pupils constricted. Textbooks describe the endless battlefield as a meat grinder where countless races fought endlessly, a place of unending carnage. Lu Xiyu was merely a D-rank professional, only LV.23. Linhai City boasted countless warriors stronger than her, including many LV.50 officials standing right here. Why were none of them being dispatched? This assignment was almost certainly a suicide mission. Xia Li's gaze darkened. Xiaolu had already planned to head to the endless battlefield. After all, his warehouse full of divine artifacts would be wasted if never put to use. And he hated waste above all things. But now his aunt had been abruptly assigned to the battlefield. He had not even had the chance to give her the stronger Merman artifact set. While the Goblin artifact set guaranteed a 100% stun on headshots, it might not keep her alive amid the battlefield's endless slaughter. He would not be able to assemble a team, distribute artifacts, and build combat strength as he planned. Lin Zhenghong had completely disrupted all his arrangements. Xia Li's stare toward Lin Zhenghong turned hostile. Lin Zhenghong grew uncomfortable under his gaze and frowned. Why are you looking at me like that? Am I in the wrong? You are the top scorer of the new recruit examination with boundless potential. But first and foremost, you are a citizen of Great Xia and a professional of Linhai City. The National Mobilization Order applies to everyone, not just select individuals. Now that your aunt holds Class A authority, she must shoulder the corresponding responsibilities. This is not personal. These are the rules. Do you think your aunt is the only one deployed? Out of tens of thousands of defenders at Ironwall Fortress, fewer than 200 survived. Their families wait for them to return. Eternal Night City and Ash Barrier still hold the front, and casualty reports arrive every single day. What did those warriors owe anyone? They too have loved ones, yet they do not retreat. Your aunt is merely fulfilling her duty. Is there any reason for you to glare at me? His words sounded noble and reasonable on the surface. One might even think well of Lin Zhenghong at first hearing. Yet Xia Lu nearly laughed. Not a single mention of his aunt being only LV.23. Not a word about the numerous LV.50 plus warriors who could take her place. Xia Lu strongly suspected Lin Zhenghong was hiding critical information. There was far more to the crisis on the endless battlefield. Others crowded around to persuade him. Xia Lu, Mayor Lin holds you in high regard. Don't be foolish. Do you grasp the value of S-tier treatment? That Class A armor set in the armory sells for at least 3 million on the open market. Offered to you freely. Go ask around. No other city in Great Xia has extended such terms to a new recruit. Your aunt will be fine, the principal added. Think about it. If the front lines were truly collapsing, alien races would have already marched on Linhai City. We would not be holding this exam peacefully. The front holds steady. Your aunt will only complete a routine deployment and return soon. She will rise in rank. You will join the official system. Everyone wins. Ambition is admirable, yet you must learn to judge the situation. Mayor Lin is paving your path. Your future will be smooth, and you will have unlimited access to Linhai City's resources. Opportunities like this are coveted by countless others. Lin Zhenghong folded his hands behind his back and tilted his chin upward, satisfied by these remarks. Then Xia Lu spoke slowly. I decline. Lin Zhenghong's smile froze, anger rising inside him. What did you say? Xia Lu, think carefully. This institutional position is no trivial matter. If you refuse, you cannot join the Linhai official system. You will no longer be recognized as a Linhai professional. All municipal benefits will be revoked, including social security benefits. Are you certain you want to reject this offer? Xia Lu met his eyes. In that case, any merits I earn will not be credited to your administration. Will they? Lin Zhenghong and the other officials exchanged glances, then burst into laughter. Young man, merits can only be earned on the front lines of the endless battlefield. You won't gain any merely by talking here. Heed our advice. As examination champion, you may choose when to enter the endless battlefield. Take Linhai City's resources. Spend 3 years raising your level, and then head to the battlefield. Xia Lu swept his gaze over them and shook his head. From today onward, I am no longer recognized as a professional of Linhai City. Tomorrow, I depart for the endless battlefield. Xia Lu turned and left the examination plaza, leaving a crowd of stunned onlookers behind him. He pulled out his phone and dialed Lu Shiyu's number. Only a cold, automated voice repeated on the line. The subscriber you dialed cannot be reached. That meant his aunt had already arrived at the endless battlefield, where there was no cellular signal. Xia Lu hung up, his expression growing heavier. When he returned home, the house was neatly tidied. Various scattered clothing and footwear had all been put away into storage boxes. A letter rested on the table. Xia Lu pulled out a chair and sat down, opening the envelope. His aunt's handwriting was rounded yet hasty, written in a rush. Little Lu, by the time you read this letter, I am already aboard the jet bound for the endless battlefield. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you in person. I feared I would cry if we met, and it would be embarrassing to shed tears shortly after taking up official combat duty. The frontline crisis is real. Eternal Night City faces severe troop shortages, and higher authorities demand every region send their best fighters to reinforce us. As the top scorer in the internal assessment, I cannot step back at a time like this. Don't worry about me. I'm wearing all the gear you gave me. That so-called undying armor lets me cling to life against all odds. The giant tribe won't stand a chance against me out there. As for you, focus on leveling. Don't rush recklessly to the battlefield just because I'm deployed. I suspect you must have claimed first place in the new recruit exam a hunch from your aunt. You hold the privilege to choose your entry date. Make good use of this opportunity. Max out your level and equipment before you consider coming. Your loving aunt. A lopsided heart was doodled at the bottom of the page. Xia Li's nose twitched as he finished reading. It meant everything to have someone he cared for in this world. But those damned people sent me straight into the endless battlefield. Still, this was no time for recklessness. He had to plan everything thoroughly and make the most of every advantage he possessed. Xia Li leaned back in his chair and stowed the envelope inside his ruby space. He had surveyed all the dungeons around Linhai City. Higher-order intelligent races were scarce here: goblins, merfolk, centaurs, serpent swarms, and the like. Truth be told, the divine artifacts dropped by these races were all fairly comparable, limited by the innate ceiling of their species. Only one special dungeon remained worth a final run. Rainy Viaduct, Dragon Attendant Lair. It had ties to legendary dragons. There was a chance it could drop genuine dragonkin divine artifacts. Once he outfitted himself with a full set of dragon artifacts, his odds of surviving the endless battlefield would become viable. The reason he stated he would enter the endless battlefield tomorrow was to reserve enough time for one final artifact farming session. With that thought, he took one last glance at the familiar room. Then he turned and left. Linhai City, emergency conference room. The heavy soundproof door swung shut behind them. Lin Zhenghong sat at the head of the table with a dark expression. This Xia Li simply does not know what is good for him. The Minister of Equipment was the first to speak, slamming his plump palm against the tabletop. He turned down Mayor Lin in front of a crowd, offering him no respect whatsoever. Grade S treatment, a one-of-a-kind gesture across all Linhai City. Does he treat this like a children's game? It is normal for young people to be fiery-tempered, but to this extent, it is no longer passion, it is reckless disregard for his own life. Silence hung in the air. Lin Zhenghong remained quiet. He waited until the complaints and curses of the others gradually died down before speaking slowly. Though Xia Lu possesses no formal class, he claimed first place in the professional exam and cleared all 7 trials with perfect scores. If we are truly pushed to the brink, I would rather not make an enemy of such a prodigy. Yet matters have progressed this far. There is no turning back. He paused to consider, then continued. Contact Officer Sun in Eternal Night City. Assign Lu Shiyu to the first assault wave. Even with top-tier gear, a grade D professional cannot survive inside that meat grinder. Xia Li will also enter the endless battlefield tomorrow. We will handle him the same way, place him within a suicide squad, and send them charging into alien lairs. Make certain these two never cross paths. Lu Shiyu may already suspect something amiss. If they exchange information, our schemes will be exposed. Furthermore, Xia Lu is impossible to predict. As long as he lives, he poses our greatest threat. A few seconds of silence filled the conference room. One by one, the attendees raised their hands. I agree. I concur. I agree as well. I will reach out to Officer Sun at once. How could he head for the Rainy Viaduct without a Maybach? After all, once he entered the endless battlefield tomorrow, the great Xia currency in his bank account would become completely useless. Over the past few days clearing dungeons, he had collected a large stock of ordinary equipment and crafting materials. Xia Li listed all of them on the auction house to sell off. In the end, he earned exactly 3.2 million. Xia Li pushed open the glass doors of the vehicle sales center. A young sales associate hurried over to greet him. She appeared to be in her 20s, wearing a gilded Maybach Omamori badge pinned to her left chest, wearing a practiced professional smile. Sir, which model are you interested in? The Maybach S-Class, Xia Li replied. Walk me through its configurations. This way, please. The sales associate's eyes lit up, gesturing for him to follow. She guided him past 2 rows of display vehicles straight toward the independent showcase at the back of the showroom. Parked on the platform was an obsidian black Maybach S-Class Omamori. Beneath the spotlights, runic luster rippled across its body. This is the Maybach S-Class Omamori, the only luxury sedan within Great Xia certified with the highest security rating. The chassis is equipped with Omamori Mark II multi-layer composite armor. The outer hull is forged from titanium alloy blended with obsidian powder, lined with 3 stacked layers of magic dampening padding. When activated, the onboard defense matrix generates a 3-meter radius repulsion barrier surrounding the vehicle. It can withstand a level 30 fireball spell, data verified through repeated testing. Security and performance. Xiaolu circled the Maybach S-Class once and nodded faintly. He was not overly captivated by such luxuries. But who could resist driving a Maybach into the Rainy Viaduct dungeon? Sir, the base price for this vehicle is 2.8 million, with full licensing bringing the total to just over 3 million. We offer complimentary home delivery, and all paperwork can be finalized today for full cash purchases. Where should we deliver the car? The entrance to the Dragon Attendant Lair dungeon. Can you make that delivery? That lies beneath the Viaduct quarantine zone. The sales associate's smile froze on her face. Sir, you mean the Dragon Attendant Lair? The entrance to that special dungeon. You intend to drive the Maybach S-Class Omamori into a dungeon? That is correct. Xiaolu handed over his bank card. 2.8 million, full payment. Handle the paperwork however you see fit. I am pressed for time. Rumble. Lightning split half the night sky. Violent raindrops, each as large as pebbles, hammered down. They struck the Maybach S-Class windshield, creating a dense, dull drumming. Xiaolu sat in the driver's seat, hands resting loosely on the steering wheel. The central console showed the onboard defense matrix had activated automatically. He reached out and turned on the audio system. An old song poured forth simultaneously from 16 speakers. The low bass hum sent faint vibrations rippling through the seat cushions. He leaned his head against the headrest, gazing through the curtain of rain toward the endless viaduct stretching ahead. For a moment, he felt as though he were racing toward the end of the world. Rainy Viaduct Dragon Attendant Lair, recommended level, LV.30 LV.50, one of Linhai City's most perilous dungeons. 3 years ago, this stretch of road remained ordinary. After the dragon invasion, though Great Xia suppressed the dragon army, the viaduct became tainted with dragon blood. The space above the highway warped into an independent dungeon separated from reality. Creatures saturated by dragon blood. Stray cats, feral dogs, even drivers trapped here who could not escape, were twisted by the corruption into dragon attendants. Trapped forever within this endless, stormy night. Xiaolu closed the dungeon information panel and gripped the steering wheel firmly once more. He shifted into S gear and slammed his foot flat on the accelerator. Roar. The Maybach S-Class engine let out a deep, rumbling growl. The tires spun wildly on the waterlogged pavement before gaining traction. The vehicle surged forward like a awakened Black Panther, tearing through the rain toward the depths of the viaduct. The speedometer climbed from 0 to 100, then 150, and kept rising. The onboard defense matrix remained active automatically. Raindrops collided against the barrier and shattered into fine mist. When the speed surpassed 200 kilometers per hour, Xia Li's vision blurred for an instant. Right afterward, a system notification echoed beside his ears. You have entered the special dungeon, Rainy Viaduct Dragon Attendant Lair. The viaduct stretched endlessly onward amid the downpour. No other vehicles could be seen as far as the eye could reach. The tires splashed waist-high waves across the asphalt. A heavy sense of isolation washed over Xiaolu. Suddenly, a humanoid monster loomed faintly in the distance, standing directly in the middle of the road. Xiaolu narrowed his eyes, tightening his grip on the wheel. The dragon attendants had finally appeared. Its frame was larger than an adult human. It moved on all fours, with spinal vertebrae protruding prominently from its back. Its entire body was covered in damp, dark green scales. It crouched beside the wreckage of an overturned sedan, using clawed limbs to pry at the broken door frame. Hearing the roar of the engine, it snapped its head around. A pair of golden vertical pupils glowed bright within the rain. Dragon Attendant Level, LV.35, HP, 450,000, Damage, 4,800 9,200, Skills, Blood Surge, Dragon Roar, Rend Attack, Scale Hardening. Description: one of the lair's guardians. Once a driver traveling along the viaduct, twisted into a dragon attendant by dragon blood corruption. It attacks all living beings approaching the lair and possesses extreme speed. The dragon attendant leaped down from the sedan wreckage and dropped onto all fours. Its golden vertical pupils locked firmly onto the Maybach. Low snarls rumbled in its throat. Xiaolu stared at the creature and pressed the accelerator all the way down. The dashboard needle climbed frantically. The dragon attendant appeared to have lost rational thought. Watching the Maybach charge toward it, it charged head-on in return. Boom! The two collided violently. At 260 kilometers per hour, the vehicle's titanium alloy front armor slammed solidly into its chest. The dragon attendant was sent flying backward. It tumbled through the air more than a dozen times before crashing into the metal guardrail dividing the lanes. A deafening crash echoed outward. Damage numbers popped up continuously above the dragon attendant. The creature slumped limply, as though every bone in its body had been fractured. Yet a segment of its health bar still remained. It was not dead. Xiaolu rolled down the window, and the storm surged inward immediately. He drew the trident of the sea god, extended it out the window, and swept it toward the distant dragon attendant. Swish! Water currents gathered along the trident's blade, then sliced forward violently. A terrifying damage value emerged. The dragon attendant was severed at the waist and perished completely. You have slain a LV.35 dragon attendant using the trident of the sea god. Experience gained, 15,600. The next moment, a beam of golden light burst upward from the creature's corpse, illuminating the entire rainy night. Xiaolu did not spare it a glance. He kept his foot on the gas and charged onward. There was only one goal upon entering this viaduct: find the exit. And the divine artifact rising within that golden beam flew straight toward him. Rainy Viaduct Dungeon Rule. Charge forward relentlessly. Never look back. The viaduct extends forward at a constant speed. If your pace falls beneath this speed, you will be trapped on the viaduct forever. Dragon blood corruption will seep into your body, gradually transforming you into a dragon attendant. Rainy Viaduct Dungeon Rule. Boss Pursuit. The viaduct has a true overlord. If you maintain a speed exceeding the viaduct's constant expansion speed for more than 1 minute, this boss will emerge to stop you from escaping the Rainy Viaduct. Rainy Viaduct Dungeon Rule. This rain is unlike ordinary rain. The viaduct is perpetually enveloped in this storm. The rainfall is the source of corruption. Prolonged exposure accelerates your dragon attendant transformation. Once a threshold is crossed, the change becomes irreversible. You must locate safe zones to slow the corruption process. The 3 dungeon rules materialized before Xiaolu's eyes. Every single one was utterly terrifying. Especially the first rule: fail to outpace the viaduct, and you are trapped eternally. Only someone wielding power capable of breaking the dungeon itself could escape. Anyone else who entered would die here. That was the true horror of the Rainy Viaduct. 2.8 million well spent. It would be extremely troublesome to run out of here on foot, but charging forward changes everything. I merely need to fight while advancing. After colliding with the dragon attendant, the front crash beam of the Maybach caved slightly. The vehicle lurched briefly, before the engine roared and pushed onward once more. The viaduct stretched endlessly ahead, no end visible. The overwhelming unknown threatened to drive one insane. Xiaolu said nothing, only pressing harder on the accelerator. At that moment, the divine artifact within the golden beam floated automatically beside Xiaolu. It was a square-set suit of armor covered in dense fine scales. Name: Dragon Scale Armor. Type: Armor, Heavy Plate. Equipable Classes: Warrior, Knight, Guardian. Quality: Divine Artifact, Prime. Defense: 8,200, 15,300. Stat bonuses: Constitution plus 1,500, Strength plus 300, Max HP plus 300,000. Special effect: Dragon Scale Barrier. Automatically generates a defensive field woven from faint dragon scale phantoms within a 5-meter radius around the wearer. The barrier initially holds 108 dragon scales. Each scale absorbs damage equal to one of the wearer's maximum HP, shattering sequentially. While the barrier persists, the wearer receives no damage until all scales break. After the barrier collapses, scales begin regenerating after 30 seconds, restoring 6 scales each second. Any excess damage sustained while scales are broken is dealt directly to the wearer. Special effect: Dragon Blood Infusion. Each enemy slain by the wearer converts the full damage dealt into equivalent dragon blood energy, feeding continuously into the dragon scale barrier. Every time dragon blood energy equal to 30 of the wearer's maximum HP is accumulated, 36 shattered scales repair instantly. If all scales remain intact, surplus dragon blood energy forms an additional blood scale shield around the barrier's perimeter. The shield's strength equals 50 of the stored dragon blood energy, lasts 15 seconds, and stacks with repeated activation. Special effect, Undying Counterscales. The wearer may actively detonate any number of remaining scales within the barrier. For every scale detonated, the barrier radius expands by 1 meter. All allied units inside receive a temporary buff granting 50 of the wearer's defense for 15 seconds. Detonate more than 54 scales at once to trigger Counterscale Awakening. The barrier transforms into a tangible storm of dragon scales, dealing true damage equal to Constitution times 500 to all enemies within range. Shards of broken scales embed within enemy bodies, increasing all damage they receive by 40. Cooldown, for hours. Description: this armor was forged from the counterscales of an ancient dragon, tempered in dragon blood and blessed by dragon souls. Those counterscales hold the ancient dragon's primal instinct to guard its territory. As long as the dragon scales remain unbroken, the wearer shall not be harmed. A fantastic piece of gear. Xiaolu glanced over its stats, eyes lighting up faintly. This divine artifact could be summed up in one word: unbreakable. Unfortunately, he was only LV.24 at present and could not equip it yet. Still, fighting his way through these dragon attendants should push him all the way to LV.30. He gradually pressed the accelerator deeper. The Maybach's engine howled amid the storm. Xiaolu held the steering wheel in one hand and gripped the trident of the sea god in the other. The dark blue trident shaft extended outside the window. The storm rain was drawn by an invisible force, swirling in a circle around the Maybach. Ahead on the highway, more than a dozen dragon attendants clambered over the guardrails at the same time. They moved on all fours, their jagged spinal ridges glistening wetly. Pairs of golden vertical pupils ignited across the rainy darkness, shining like searchlights. They snarled toward the Maybach and charged ferociously on all limbs. Seeing this, Xiaolu pressed the autopilot button. An onboard notification popped up. Autopilot activated. Current set speed, 250 kilometers per hour. Warning: this speed exceeds safe road thresholds. Operation on slippery pavement is not recommended. Maintain speed. Xiaolu slowly released the steering wheel. Once he confirmed the autopilot handled the vehicle steadily, he relaxed. Then he stood up from the driver's seat. He pressed the button on the side of his deep-sea helmet, and the visor slid silently along its track. Faint streams of blue data drifted slowly across the visor surface. He opened the sunroof and leaned his upper body outside. The storm crashed directly against him. Thankfully, the helmet visor protected him. Otherwise, rain would have battered his entire face. By now, the dozen dragon attendants had closed in, letting out terrifying screeches. Grasping the trident of the sea god, Xiaolu swept it forward. Water gathered along the blade, forming a 20-meter wave-shaped water cleaver that sliced along the pavement. It struck each dragon attendant in sequence. They lost balance and tumbled across the road, scales splintering and limbs severed cleanly. Xiaolu reversed his grip and swung once more. Damage values popped up one after another, and dragon attendants collapsed one by one. Congratulations. You have slain a LV.32 dragon attendant with the trident of the sea god. Experience gained, 17,000. Congratulations. You have slain a LV.31 dragon attendant with the trident of the sea god. Experience gained, 16,000. You have leveled up to LV.25. All attributes plus 5. The rainy viaduct was fraught with danger, yet experience rewards were extremely generous. For anyone strong enough, it made an excellent spot to farm levels. Kill notifications continued to stream across his vision. Yet more golden vertical pupils ignited within the curtain of rain, dense and countless like swarms of fireflies. They clambered over the guardrails lining both sides of the viaduct and advanced in packs along the road ahead. He estimated there were at least 100 of them. A head-on charge would undoubtedly wreck the Maybach. Shortly afterward, running footsteps echoed from behind. Xiaolu glanced back and saw dragon attendants leaping across vehicle wreckages in pursuit. Their claws scraped against concrete, producing a teeth-grating screech. Dragon attendants surrounded him from every direction. Even decked out in divine artifacts, Xiaolu dared not grow careless. Without the Maybach, clearing this dungeon would prove far more difficult. He lifted the trident of the sea god above his head. The deep blue gem embedded at the base of the trident's shaft radiated blinding light. 3 towering waterspouts rose amid the surrounding rain. Shark cavalry, abyss giant crab, and thunder jellyfish emerged from the surging pillars of water. The shark cavalry was the first to fall. It had just emerged from a water column when it collapsed onto the ground, twitching violently. Damage values kept popping up above its head. Heavy rain poured down in this area, and aquatic creatures should theoretically survive here. Yet this water was fresh water tainted with dragon blood corruption. Marine life could not adapt to it at all. The abyss crab and thunder jellyfish still retained a degree of combat power, but both gained a new status debuff. Dragon blood corruption progress. 1. Once the progress hit 100%, they would mutate into dragon attendants. Still, it was enough that they could draw the attention of the dragon attendants and clear a path for the Maybach. Shortly after the shark cavalry crashed to the ground, the Maybach sped away at 250 miles per hour, leaving it far behind. Within mere seconds, a notification appeared confirming its death. The abyss crab scuttled sideways, brandishing its massive pincers, barely able to keep pace. The thunder jellyfish hovered above the Maybach, requiring no extra effort to accelerate. Thunder crackled continuously beneath its bell-shaped mantle. The rainstorm only intensified. The dragon attendants grew increasingly agile. Hiss! Dragon attendants crawled out from every direction. They charged straight toward the abyss crab, nimbly dodging its slamming giant pincers before scrambling upward across its shell. In a matter of seconds, the abyss crab was completely covered. Panic washed over the abyss crab. It flailed its pincers wildly, yet to no avail. Its prized carapace was being pierced and shattered by the dragon attendants' sharp claws. Damage numbers surged nonstop. Wave after wave of dragon attendants threw themselves onto the crab, soon piling up. Your abyss crab has perished. Thanks to the abyss crab drawing all the dragon attendants' focus, a path was opened for the Maybach to surge forward. Xia Lu dared not slow down, not even for a moment. If he failed to keep up, he would be trapped forever. In that case, he could only pin his hopes on artifacts dropped by dragon attendants to find a way out. Swish, swish, swish. Xia Lu leaned his upper body out of the Maybach sunroof, twirling the trident of the sea god with fierce momentum. Streaks of 20-meter-long sapphire water blades hurtled toward the horde of dragon attendants. One slash left them critically wounded. A second slash finished them off instantly. You have slain LV. 35 dragon attendant using the trident of the sea god. EXP gained, 22,000. You have slain LV.32 dragon attendant using the trident of the sea god. EXP gained, 17,000. You have slain LV.33 dragon attendant using the trident of the sea god. EXP gained, 18,000. You have leveled up to LV.26. All attributes plus 5. You have leveled up to LV.27. All attributes plus 5. He had eliminated at least dozens of them in this single assault. The area of effect power of the trident of the sea god showed its full might here. Coupled with its staggering damage output, each pair of slashes cut down swarms of enemies. Golden beams of light lit up the rainy night. Every single beam marked a dropped artifact. Xiaola had no time to examine them closely. He only caught quick glimpses as the artifacts automatically flew toward him. One of them was a 3-meter greatsword coiled with a black dragon, a ruler of the world, overlooking all creation. Name: Dragon Emperor Greatsword. Type: Weapon Greatsword. Equip level: LV.30. Available classes: Warrior, Berserker, Dragon Knight. Grade: Supreme Divine Artifact. Attack power: 128 Attribute bonuses: Strength plus 1500, Stamina plus 800. Special effect: Dragon Emperor Phantom. Every slash awakens the sealed phantom of the ancient Dragon Emperor trapped within the blade. The phantom detaches from the sword edge to independently chase and maul targets along the strike path. The Dragon Emperor Phantom ignores 30 of the target's physical defense and deals physical damage equal to 600 of the wielder's strength. If the phantom successfully devours an enemy, it restores 10 of the wielder's maximum HP over the next 15 seconds and charges 1 stack of Dragon Soul, raising critical damage by 15. A maximum of 10 stacks can be accumulated. Special effect: Devour Chain. After the Dragon Emperor Phantom lands a mauling strike, if other enemies exist within a 15-meter radius of the target, the Phantom automatically leaps to the nearest foe. The maximum number of chain jumps equals the current stacks of Dragon Soul. Damage increases by 20 with each successive chain jump. Special effect: Advent of the Dragon Emperor. Activate when Dragon Soul reaches maximum stacks. Raise the Dragon Emperor Greatsword overhead, and a furious black dragon descends from the heavens to judge all hostile targets within range. Description: The Dragon Emperor Greatsword was once embedded upon a throne. Only beings acknowledged by the Black Dragon King are worthy of drawing this blade. The blood of every king shall end upon this sword. The Black Dragon King? Xia Li's eyes lit up. This greatsword might not grant him escape from the endless overpass, but it would effortlessly suppress these dragon attendants. He was only LV.27 for now. Yet with countless dragon attendants to slay, leveling up would come easily. After this battle, he had looted 27 dragon scale armors alone, along with 13 dragon emperor greatswords. He had not even equipped the sword, yet it was already dropping in overwhelming quantities. This drop rate was likely linked to the type of dragon attendant. The Maybach tore through the curtain of rain at a steady 250 miles per hour. A dull thud echoed from the rear of the vehicle, as if something heavy had climbed aboard. The car immediately lurched violently from side to side. What? Alarm surged through Xiaolu, and he spun his head to look. A dragon attendant had climbed onto the vehicle. This was an entirely new variant. It possessed a human upper body, while its lower half consisted of a thick serpentine tail. It could launch pouncing attacks by bracing its tail against the ground. This was exactly how it had leaped onto the Maybach. Creak, creak. The Maybach's metal body creaked under the pressure of its claws. The dragon attendant flicked its tongue, scrambling swiftly across the frame. Its golden vertical pupils were frighteningly close. The next instant, it opened its massive jaws and lunged straight for Xiaolu. Xiaolu dodged sideways, and its claws scraped across the visor of his helmet. He thrust the trident backward, piercing the dragon attendant's chest. The tip of the trident of the sea god burst out from its back, sending a cloud of dark green blood mist billowing outward. The screeching dragon attendant was impaled and flung off the overpass. But in the brief window where he dealt with this foe, 3 more clambered onto the roof. More of these new serpent-tailed dragon attendants kept leaping aboard one after another. Xiaoli's gaze turned grim. If this kept up, the Maybach would be wrecked completely. The thunder jellyfish fought desperately to defend them. Bolt-like tentacle whips lashed out at the serpent-tailed dragon attendants, inflicting temporary paralysis. One monster coiled its serpent tail around the Maybach's sea pillar and thrust its torso inside. Xiaolu stepped forward and drove the trident downward, piercing its nape. Ever since the serpent-tailed dragon attendants appeared, the pressure had spiked drastically. He had to protect the Maybach at all costs. You have slain LV.37 serpent-tailed dragon attendant. EXP gained, 25,000. You have slain LV.35 serpent-tailed dragon attendant. EXP gained, 23,000. You have leveled up to LV.28. Continuous kill notifications flashed before his eyes. The Maybach resembled a battered boat. It grew more and more damaged. The B-pillar bent, large sheets of outer body panel tore away, and thick plumes of smoke began pouring from the hood. Damn it, this can't keep going. How much longer can the Maybach hold out? Xiaolu gritted his teeth, his eyes narrowing sharply. Hordes of serpent-tailed dragon attendants continued surging forth. At that moment, a gigantic dark silhouette suddenly leaped out from the crowd of dragon attendants. Its body stretched at least 10 meters in length. Xiaoli's pupils constricted violently. It was closing in fast on the extending end of the overpass. The boss had come hunting him.